The first sequence this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 601. Keep it for now. We can hide, but where can we hide? Luolan's mind was spinning rapidly. Ivy is a light-loving plant, right? Can we hide in the sewer according to the old trick? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone saw a manhole cover being blown away by something, and then in front of them, countless vines came out of the sewer and began to pull the humans next to the manhole cover into the sewer. Pretend I didn't say anything. Luolan swallowed and turned to run. The slap in the face came too quickly for Luolan to be prepared. The vines of the ivy had already spread to them. 1/3 of the entire barrier has collapsed. Joki followed him and said unhappily, "Your brain is useless. Didn't you say that we can hide in the sewer? Fortunately, I didn't listen to you. If I had followed you, the creepers would have strangled us." Luolan said with a dark face, "Then think about it. It's okay if you can come up with a solution." Joki thought for a while and said, "This creeper is not afraid of bullets or water. Although it is afraid of fire, the area is too large. Unless the entire barrier is burned down, there seems to be no way." "Aren't you talking nonsense?" Luolan cursed. "I know what you said. Everyone knows it." But just when he said this, Luolan got a stitch in the side. Joki is a transcendent, and the others are either young and strong reporters or soldiers of the Qing family. It is not too strenuous for everyone to run, but it is too strenuous for Luolan to run. Just now, the instinct to escape prompted him to forget his fatigue, but now his body can't stand it anymore. Luolan covered his chest and said, "Keep running forward, don't worry about me." As he said that, he stood there panting, but the Qing soldiers carried him up without saying anything. "Let's go together. It's our duty to protect you. If you die, we might as well die in the line of duty." Luolan was anxious. "I haven't finished speaking yet. I'm not thinking about it. You are ordinary people. Can you carry more than 240 pounds of me?" "Joki, you carry me." Luolan wanted to call Joki just now, but he couldn't breathe, so the Qing soldier misunderstood and thought that Luolan didn't want to slow down their escape speed. Joki, who was running in front, wanted to ignore Luolan, but Luolan had spoken, so he could only run back and said with a dark face, "This will cost extra money." As he said that, Joki ran back and carried Luolan on his back, but it was not difficult to run. Few people know that Joki actually awakened very early and should be one of the earliest awakened extraordinary people, so his physical fitness is also better than most extraordinary people. Everyone was running, and Luolan was giving advice on Joki's back. "Let me think about where is the safest place?" "That's right, the place where the money is protected is the safest. Let's find a bank quickly. The bank's vault must be the most airtight. Some vaults don't even have vents. If we hide inside, the vines won't be able to crawl in. And there must be gaps in the vault, so we won't suffocate to death." After that, they passed a Wang's bank, only to see that the door of the bank was full of people. It turned out that everyone wanted to hide in the safest place, but there were too many people here and they couldn't squeeze in. Luolan smacked his lips. "Okay, just pretend I didn't say anything. I'll think about it." Joki was anxious. "Think about it quickly. If you can't think of it, we'll all die here." At this moment, the vines behind him were getting closer and closer, and the barrier area covered by ivy had changed from 1/3 to 1/2. As they were running, the manhole cover in front of them was suddenly pushed open by vines. But before the vines came to Luolan, Joki suddenly frowned, and in the blink of an eye, all the water on the vines was sucked out by Joki. The terrible vines withered at a speed visible to the naked eye, and no longer had the strength to grab people. Luolan shouted excitedly, "Yes, Joki, can't you control the water in the vines? Let's get rid of it now. Then I, Luolan, will be the benefactor who saved the Wang family's barrier. Let's see if they dare to target me again. If they still target me, public opinion will scold them to death." Joki gritted his teeth and said, "Stop talking nonsense. Don't you see how many creepers there are? Do you think I'm a god? Even a god can't suck them out." So, when Joki saw the vast number of creeper vines, he could only run away. "Your ability is not good enough," Luolan pouted and said. "Didn't you say you were the first to awaken? How come you are so weak?" "Am I weak? It's because the enemy is too powerful. Zhou was so angry that he wanted to throw Fatty Luo to the ground. Just behind them, the group of protesters were still chasing them closely. At first, these people wanted to catch up with Luolan and beat him up, but now it's different. They followed Luolan purely because they thought that they might be able to escape by following Luolan. In a panic, they didn't have much room to think. They just thought that Luolan could judge the danger first, and there might be other ways to escape the danger. At this time, survival is higher than the truth they insist on. Luolan looked back at these people, but didn't say much. He was not angry with these people in front of his life. Whether he could survive depends on their own lives. Wait, those creepers don't seem to be spreading anymore. Luolan turned around and found that the creepers that were growing fast had stopped. After driving all the humans in the barrier to the remaining half of the center of the barrier, they suddenly stopped moving. Everyone looked at the emerald green creepers from a distance and suddenly felt like they were saved. A protester asked in confusion, "Why is it not moving? Are we saved?" A protester with glasses gradually calmed down and said, "Everyone thinks that plants can grow indefinitely, but in fact it seems that only woody plants can do this. Of course, I am not a professional in this, but I am just saying my guess. Just like trees cannot grow indefinitely, this creeper may have reached its growth limit." As soon as he finished speaking, Luolan's faint voice floated over, "Have you ever thought that it is not eating us now, maybe it is just leaving us to eat tomorrow?" Protesters. But no matter why the creepers stopped, they finally stopped, and the humans in the barrier could also take a breath. The Wang group must have asked for help. "Maybe we will be saved during this period," said the protester. But Luolan didn't believe these lies. He whispered to Zhou and others, "We have also made careful observations on the way. Although the information about the garrisons of the Wang group's various fortresses is unclear, we also know that there is no military base near fortress number 61, so it may take 3 days for the Wang group's reinforcements to arrive. What can the army do about these vines? Flamethrowers can't produce too many for a while, and it's just a drop in the bucket." Chapter 602, Too Few Friends, so Luolan cannot die. There's a way, that is to use high-energy fuel or white phosphorus bombs to directly burn the barrier. But if we stay in the center of the barrier, if the fire spreads, we will die before all the creepers are killed. Luolan continued, "If the creepers move again, I'm afraid we will really be at the end of the road." Zhou frowned, "Continue to look for a closed environment. As long as we don't face too many vines at the same time, I may be able to delay for a while with my ability." Luolan sighed, "The last time I faced this kind of dilemma, I was chased by the experimental subject." A Yaoking soldier suddenly asked, "Then how did you escape from the experimental subject before, boss?" Luolan recalled and said, "Because I met a powerful young man, but this time, I was not so lucky." Among the protesters who were originally following Luolan and the others, someone suddenly stood up and asked, "Luolan, is this plant your conspiracy?" Luolan was surprised, "Is your brain kicked by a donkey? Isn't this a good omen for your Wang group? Some people saw this creeper before, and they specifically said that this was a good omen for the Wang family, saying that Wang Shengzi managed more than 10 barriers well and managed the Wang consortium well, so such a good omen would appear. But now I think it's a joke. Why else did you know that the crisis was coming in advance?" The protester asked loudly. Luolan laughed, "You were sitting down there, didn't you see so many military vehicles coming and going? You are used to being pampered and like to be pigs raised by others in the barriers. When the crisis came, you had no judgment at all. There was news about the creeper a long time ago. What does it have to do with me? Am I sowing seeds in the air? If I had this ability, your wife wouldn't be infertile." The protester's face was black. The corner of the Qing soldier's mouth twitched. It seems that Boss Luo is now trapped in this creeper and has a little toothache, otherwise he wouldn't start talking nonsense. However, they didn't think much of it. After all, Boss Luo was a scoundrel himself. At this time, Luolan looked around. The other residents had already fled to the center of the fortress, leaving them alone on the edge of the wall. Luolan suddenly asked, "Hey, if we kill them now, no one will know, right?" As soon as he said this, the faces of the protesters changed. Now they were really scared. They dared to hold banners to protest against Luolan, only because they knew that Luolan couldn't do anything to them in the Wang's fortress, but now our order is gone, and their protective barrier is gone. However, Luolan didn't really want to kill them. Zhou Tao, a reporter from Hope Media next to him, coughed twice, "I will report it truthfully. Okay, I know. Luolan waved his hand impatiently. You also see what kind of people they are. I won't bother with them, but you hope media should also understand that using this method to disgust me, Luolan, is too low level. As he said this, Luolan took the lead and walked towards the center of the fortress. Regardless of whether the creeper will spread again, they must enter the fortress now, grab food, and then find a safe and reliable place to protect themselves. The fortress was already in chaos. Not long after Luolan walked, he saw some people smashing the door of the store and going in to grab food and water. Everyone is not stupid. They know that food and water are the most important now, Luolan said with a smile. He didn't look like he was in a dangerous city at all. Just after a group of people robbed the store, they ran into Luolan and a group of Qing soldiers who looked at them with a smile, and then robbed them. Luolan distributed food to Joki and others, and said, "This is probably enough for us to survive for 3 days. Put the food on your body and hide it from me." In this dangerous city, people were panicked. The protesters no longer followed Luolan and others, but went to find other residents of Fortress 61 and Wang's consortium troops on their own. On the way, they saw others grabbing food, and they followed them, but after grabbing it, they secretly hid it on their bodies, and they no longer had the previous unity. Joki said, "Why don't we go find the troops of Wang's consortium? We are foreign guests after all. From a political point of view, they must protect us, otherwise they can't bear Qingzhen's anger, even if it is outrageous. If Luolan died here, Qingzhen would really throw a nuclear bomb at Wang's fortress. Even if the real murderer is actually a plant." Luolan shook his head and said, "There must be many people alive from the troops of Wang's consortium at this moment, but do you think guns can protect us? These are not experimental subjects. Old Joe. At the critical moment, we still have to rely on you. I found that you are very reliable before, a good brother who can stand up at the critical moment." Joki curled his lips. "I said in advance that I can't protect you. I'll pay more." Luolan said. "I can't protect you even if you pay me more," Joki roared. "Please recognize the situation. Find a house with few doors and windows and defend it." Luolan sighed. "I hope the rescue team can come soon. Although I don't know what they can do to this plant, I just hope Wang doesn't burn down the whole fortress. If only Ren Xiaosu were here, we could kill our way out and be done with it." "Come on," Joki said speechlessly. "Look at the creepers outside. Ren Xiaosu can't kill his way out here." At this moment, Ren Xiaosu stood in front of the gate outside the fortress, looking at the dense creeper vines in front of him. He turned to Zhou Yingsu and said, "Can you control the creepers?" Zhou Yingsu looked embarrassed. "Master, do we have to go in? Didn't you hear what those Wang soldiers said, that the barrier is destroyed?" When they were fleeing, they saw that the ivy on the city wall had swallowed up 1/3 of the barrier. Now looking at the time, I'm afraid the entire barrier is covered with ivy. Luolan is definitely dead. Do we really have to go in and save him? Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said, "Based on Luolan's cunning character, I think he will survive to the end. Whether he is dead or alive, I have to go in and take a look." Zhou Yingsu muttered, "Why should we save that fat guy?" Ren Xiaosu said seriously, "He is my friend." Zhou Yingsu suddenly realized that Ren Xiaosu was like two extremes. He could ignore the life or death of those who are not his friends, but if they were his friends, he would go through fire and water for them. Ren Xiaosu saw Zhou Yingsu's confusion and explained casually, "Because we have fewer friends, each one is very important. If one dies, there will be one less." "Well," Zhou Yingsu sighed, "I tried it just now. It seems that because we are too far away from the roots of the creeper, I can't control it." "Is that so?" Ren Xiaosu looked at the creeper and silently estimated the possibility of forcing his way in. At this time, Zhou Yingsu added, "But I can stop it from attacking me." Thanks to ZUIAO and Baoshao88 for becoming new allies of this book, and thanks to Xiao Xiao is the most beautiful wife for the large reward. The three bosses are generous. Chapter 603 The Maid's Abilities. When Ren Xiaosu and the Blade Company went to attack B1 River, everyone was worried about how to fight. As a result, the Qing army came and took down B1 River overnight in a lightning raid. Everyone thought that the Qing family would have other plans. However, they didn't. It was just because Qingzhen Luolan knew about Ren Xiaosu's affairs, so he wanted to help him fight the Zhuang family. This was also what shocked Zhang Xiaoman at the beginning. No one in the Blade Company thought that the Qing family would value the relationship with Ren Xiaosu so much. Moreover, Luo Lan also stood on their side at the Yang family dinner at the 88th barrier. When everyone laughed at them, Luo Lan stood up. And now, Luo Lan is in the 61st barrier. Since Ren Xiaosu has seen his news in the newspaper, there is no reason not to save him. Ren Xiaosu asked Zhou Yingsu to test it. To be safe, he also had to see if Zhou Yingsu would really not be attacked by creepers. What surprised Ren Xiaosu was that when Zhou Yingsu walked towards the gate blocked by the creeper vines actually made way for Zhou Yingsu to pass through. Zhou Yingsu turned back and looked at her master. Master, I didn't lie, it really won't attack me. Ren Xiaosu frowned and thought, then can you make it not attack me? The creeper vines were densely packed, and even if Ren Xiaosu went in, it would be a bit troublesome, so it would be better to rely on Zhou Yingsu's ability. But Zhou Yingsu explained, I don't think it can. Try it first. Ren Xiaosu walked to Zhou Yingsu's side, but as soon as he walked over, the highly aggressive creeper stabbed at him. Zhou Yingsu was about to rush to rescue, but saw the black knife in Ren Xiaosu's hand flashed, and the creeper vines that stabbed him all broke and fell to the ground. Master, this is too dangerous, Zhou Yingsu said, let's not go. As your maid, I can't let you take any risks. To put it bluntly, Zhou Yingsu absolutely did not want to enter such a weird place. Although she could prevent the ivy from attacking now, who knew what was inside and what would happen? Seeing Ren Xiaosu frowning and not saying anything, Zhou Yingsu thought that Ren Xiaosu was moved by her persuasion, so she stepped up. Master, think about it, we have depended on each other for so long, how can I watch you go to die? It will be very dangerous if you go in. Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment and said, okay, I won't go. Then you go in alone and be careful. Zhou Yingsu. Ren Xiaosu looked at Zhou Yingsu. Any questions? Yesterday, the media newspapers mentioned the hotel where Luo Lan stayed. You can go to the hotel to look for him first. If you can't find him, go to the bank vault. If you can't find him in the bank vault, look for him in the center of the barrier. Luo Lan is a smart man. Since the creepers surrounded him from the outside, he can only run to the center of the barrier. Ahem, Zhou Yingsu said, Master, I suddenly remembered that if you held my hand, you wouldn't be attacked. Ren Xiaosu sneered, why didn't you say it earlier? I just remembered it, Zhou Yingsu explained. She was about to collapse. How could she know that the master would let her go in alone? If she had known earlier, she would have told him earlier. Master, you are too cruel. Ren Xiaosu glanced at Zhou Yingsu, can you really make the creeper vines not attack me? Zhou Yingsu nodded like pounding garlic, I promise, as long as you hold my hand, the creeper will never attack you. Okay, you wait, Ren Xiaosu said and went back to the market town. Zhou Yingsu stood there in a daze, not knowing where Ren Xiaosu had gone. 10 minutes later, Ren Xiaosu came back. Zhou Yingsu was shocked to see Ren Xiaosu holding a pair of gloves in his hand. Master, what are you doing? Zhou Yingsu asked. Men and women should not touch each other. Let's wear gloves. Ren Xiaosu said. Master, you don't have to. Zhou Yingsu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Isn't it just holding my hand? Are my hands dirty? Don't think too much, I just think we should avoid some misunderstandings, Ren Xiaosu explained casually. After all, holding another girl's hand is still a little unclear. Although she can't see it, I have to be open and honest. Master, you are too pure, Zhou Yingsu was powerless to complain. The master in front of him didn't know how many earth-shaking things he had done, but he didn't even want to hold other women's hands. At this time, Ren Xiaosu had already put on gloves, and then held Zhou Yingsu's hand to try again. Sure enough, the creeper vines no longer attacked him. Originally, Ren Xiaosu was still worried that it would not work with gloves, but now he finally breathed a sigh of relief, while Zhou Yingsu kept rolling her eyes. Most of the refugees in the market town followed the soldiers who had just escaped and ran away, and only a few were still watching. Qin Sheng stood not far from Ren Xiaosu and the others and suddenly said, I'll go with you. Ren Xiaosu turned around and looked at Qin Sheng. This young knight was also very powerful, and would be a great help if a battle broke out. But this time they were not fighting against humans or beasts. The enemy was a planned, and after entering, according to the knight's nature, he might want to rescue some survivors in the barrier to the best of his ability, which might slow down his progress in finding Luo Lan, so Ren Xiaosu decisively refused. You just wait in the market town. Aren't you knights not allowed to enter the barrier during your training in the market town? But now it's a difficult time, how can I stand by and watch, and the teacher may not know if I go in, Qin Sheng explained. Ren Xiaosu said, if you want to go in, I will report you to Luo Chen. Qin Sheng. After that, Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu walked into barrier number 61. Qin Sheng was about to rush in, but the vines of creepers blocking the gate had closed again, leaving Qin Sheng helpless. At this moment, Qin Sheng suddenly realized that perhaps no one among humans could face this creeper alone, not even the extraordinary. A group of refugees watching nearby watched Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu walk into the barrier. They couldn't understand why someone dared to enter the barrier at this time. They were too brave. Ren Xiaosu is now a familiar face in the town. Everyone only knows that he is rich, but they don't know that he is also an extraordinary. And the one who just called him master is also an extraordinary? After Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu entered the barrier, the first thing that shocked him was that everything that came into his sight turned green. The dense creepers were like a sea, and he and Zhou Yingsu looked particularly small. Chapter 604 Bank Vault. When Ren Xiaosu withdrew his gaze from the green ocean, he was surprised to see that not far from the gate, the camera representing Wang's artificial intelligence was slowly turning towards him. Ren Xiaosu put on his hood and wondered, this barrier is about to be gone, how can artificial intelligence still work? But if it is still working, why is there no early warning? Too many people have mentioned artificial intelligence to Ren Xiaosu before, but Ren Xiaosu has never been very clear about its working principle, and Ren Xiaosu's previous growth environment has not been exposed to things like computers, so he has always been curious about artificial intelligence but not particularly convinced of it. Now thinking of those people's praise for artificial intelligence before, it always feels like a satire. Of course, Ren Xiaosu doesn't know whether Wang himself thinks so. Because he doesn't understand artificial intelligence, Ren Xiaosu can't judge this thing. Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu walked cautiously on the street. As they walked, Ren Xiaosu suddenly stepped on an obstacle. Looking down, under the dense leaves of the creeper, there was a human skeleton. Not only this one, but human skeletons can be seen everywhere on the road, and the vines of creepers are tightly wrapped around them, which is extremely terrifying. Ren Xiaosu can imagine how desperate these people were and how tragic the scene was when the disaster happened. If it was the experimental subjects who attacked, at least some people who hide at home might have escaped, because the senses of the experimental subjects did not become particularly strong as their physical fitness improved, so some people still escaped. But facing this creeper was different. After walking for half a day, Ren Xiaosu didn't even see any survivors. Ren Xiaosu recalled, what was the name of the hotel where Luo Lan stayed? He flipped out a copy of yesterday's newspaper from the space and searched for a long time before finding it, Intercontinental Hotel on Kaiksuan West Road. Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu first found a newsstand and found a map of barrier number 61 from it, and then found the location of Kaiksuan West Road. They were only about 5 or 6 kilometers away from there, and they walked there in half an hour. When they arrived outside the Intercontinental Hotel, outside the hotel, in addition to human skeletons, there were only banners thrown away by protesters. That's right, Ren Xiaosu saw the banner and confirmed that they were in the right place. Let's go to the parking lot first. When they arrived at the parking lot, Ren Xiaosu was shocked to find that the cars with Qing's license plates were covered with creepers, and the tires seemed to have been punctured. Ren Xiaosu wondered why Luo Lan's cars were so unlucky. When he was at Li's barrier before, every car he bought was punctured by Yang Xiaojun. Here, someone punctured the tires again. Ren Xiaosu took Zhou Yingsu upstairs and searched every room, but still couldn't find any trace of Fatty Luo. Just searching every room took Ren Xiaosu and the others an hour. No body suspected to be Luo Lan was found, which means he fled the hotel in advance. This is a good thing, Ren Xiaosu analyzed, but where would he go? He is so fat, he must not be able to run fast. Maybe he has been caught up by creepers, Zhou Yingsu said with a pout. No, Ren Xiaosu shook his head, he came with his entourage. The loyalty of the Qing soldiers is far beyond your imagination. If he can't run, the others will carry him and run. Okay, Zhou Yingsu said, then let's go find the bank vault. After a while, a group of people hiding in the bank vault suddenly heard a knock on the door outside the vault. Everyone locked in the vault was shocked. Why would there be a knock at the door at this time? Is someone coming to rescue us? One person said excitedly, It must be Wang's troops, otherwise who would knock on the door at this time? Maybe it's some creeper. Crawlers don't know how to knock on the door. Crawlers eat people, so what's so strange about knocking on the door? Just as they were talking, a muffled shout came from outside through the door of the safe. Because of the soundproofing of the safe, the sound was already very small when it reached the inside. Someone pressed his face against the wall when he heard the sound, but heard someone outside shouting, "Is there anyone inside? Don't open the door, there are creepers outside. I just want to ask if there is someone named Luolan inside." The people in the vault looked at each other. What was going on? Why is there someone looking for someone? The people inside shouted, "No, there is no one named Luolan here." "Okay, you hide inside, don't come out rashly, the creepers outside have not been dealt with, and Wang's troops haven't arrived yet," Ren Xiaosu said and took Zhou Yingsu away. The people in the bank vault were the first survivors he had seen, which was a good thing. According to Luolan's brain, he must have thought that there could be people hiding in the vault. As long as Luolan could hide in it, he could wait for his rescue. The people in the vault listened to the gradual calm outside, and all of them were a little dumbfounded. Who is outside? Isn't it Wang's troops? Of course not. Someone said, but at this time, how powerful a person must be to walk around in those creepers. For a moment, Ren Xiaosu's image in their eyes suddenly became mysterious and tall. They looked at themselves, hiding in the vault in a mess, breathing a little unsmoothly, and then looked at others, who treated the creepers as nothing. Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu continued to walk deeper into the barrier. Zhou Yingsu suddenly whispered, "Master, look over there." Ren Xiaosu looked in the direction Zhou Yingsu pointed, and saw several people entangled on a wall. The tentacles of the creepers pierced into their bodies, and blood flowed out of those tentacles, so that the tentacles of the creepers connected to their bodies turned red. But these people were different from the skeletons Ren Xiaosu had seen before. Although these people had closed their eyes as if they were unconscious, they were obviously still alive. These people were like the nutrients stored by the creepers for themselves. Ren Xiaosu wanted to get closer to observe, but Zhou Yingsu stopped him. "Master, don't get close. This creeper has a strong sense of protection for food and a strong sense of territory. If you get close to its food like this, it will be furious. Then both of us will be doomed." Ren Xiaosu wondered, what is the principle of it not attacking you? "It is because I assimilated with it through my ability, making it think that we are just a part of it. So it is not that it does not attack us, but that it did not find us," Zhou Yingsu said. "Then you were able to control my potato shooter before, why can't you control it?" Ren Xiaosu asked. Zhou Yingsu explained helplessly, "Because I can't find its root system. If I want to control it, I must infuse my ability into its root system. Otherwise, Master, let's go find its root system. As long as I control it, won't the crisis of this barrier be resolved?" Ren Xiaosu looked numbly at the vast green ocean in front of him. What the hell, who can find its root system? Wake up. Oh. Chapter 605, Go to barrier number 61 even if you die. In the afternoon, people hiding in many bank vaults in Fortress 61 all experienced Ren Xiaosu's search for people. The survivors hiding in the vaults didn't know what expression to make about this. Some people in the vault begged Ren Xiaosu to take them away, but when Ren Xiaosu learned that Luolan was not in the vault, he turned around and left to find the next bank. There were many banks in Fortress 61, but Ren Xiaosu searched all the banks within 10 kilometers around the Intercontinental Hotel and didn't find Luolan. Ren Xiaosu's mood became more and more heavy. Everyone knew that Wang's people were soldiers, and all adult males were required to serve in the military. So at first Ren Xiaosu thought that if a disaster happened in Wang's fortress, the residents of Wang's should deal with it better than the residents of other consortiums, but he was wrong. When facing this kind of force majeure, everyone was actually the same. It's not that the physical fitness of the residents of Wang's fortress is not good enough, but that everyone has never faced such an enemy. Zhou Yingsu's hand was held by Ren Xiaosu. She was led by Ren Xiaosu all the way. She looked at Ren Xiaosu's profile from behind and suddenly couldn't remember when she became his maid. In this barrier that was covered by disaster, the whole barrier seemed to belong to only the two of them. Although Ren Xiaosu held her hand and wore gloves. Actually, Ren Xiaosu was in danger at this time. It was very difficult for Ren Xiaosu to face such a huge creeper. If he was not careful, he might become one of the skeletons. The creeper absorbed too much nutrients from humans and was no longer something that a certain extraordinary person could face. At this time, as long as Zhou Yingsu suddenly let go, Ren Xiaosu would be in trouble in an instant. But Zhou Yingsu found that Ren Xiaosu seemed to have never worried about such a thing happening. In today's world, being trusted suddenly made Zhou Yingsu feel happy. Thinking about it, Zhou Yingsu was distracted and almost tripped by the vines. It was Ren Xiaosu who reacted quickly and helped her up. Ren Xiaosu turned back and frowned and asked, "What are you daydreaming about?" "Master, I'm a little hungry." Outside the number 62 barrier, a huge truck convoy suddenly drove towards the barrier. Because the vehicles were too large, they immediately alarmed the Wang's garrison. Before the truck convoy approached the barrier, it was immediately stopped by the fully armed army. The Wang's troops pointed their guns at the truck convoy. "Everyone in the car, get off, explain your purpose, and accept inspection." The Wang's troops were well trained. They had quickly formed a defensive formation to ensure that there were no blind spots for attack. As long as the people in the car moved, they would face comprehensive firepower coverage. At this time, an older middle-aged man jumped out of the front car. It seemed that because of the ups and downs of life, his face was weathered and his body was a little hunched. After jumping off the car, the man smiled and said, "Hello, officers. I am just a merchant. My name is Wang Fuge. Did our Wang family start trading with Fort 178? I should be considered the first batch of merchants to go to the northwest." The officer of the Wang family frowned and said, "Why do you have so many convoys?" Wang Fuge smiled bitterly. In fact, he didn't want to carry so many goods. If he didn't carry so many, Zhang Xiaoman would not let them go. Seeing that there were as many as 71 trucks behind him, this was also the main reason for alarming the Wang family troops. They had never seen any merchants with such a large formation. "What are you loading on your car?" the officer asked. "You don't have to call me sir. My name is Wang Linlin, the battalion commander of this unit. In fact, we are still relatives. Trading with the Northwest is one of the top priorities of the entire Wang family consortium, so the superiors have long explained that these merchants should be treated well. If there is a phenomenon of violating discipline and oppressing merchants, they will wait for transfer or retirement." So when Wang Linlin heard that the other party was a businessman, his attitude became much more relaxed. However, the inspection of the vehicle must be careful, and this cannot be sloppy. Wang Fuge explained, "There are potassium chloride, nickel ore, and everything." Wang Fuge smiled bitterly again. The goods Zhang Xiaoman loaded for him were so many that he couldn't imagine, and there were so many varieties that he couldn't finish talking about them for a while. He even loaded a whole truck with wolfberries from the northwest. It is said that some bigwigs in the Central Plains particularly like to soak wolfberries in water, especially black wolfberries. Wang Linlin glanced at Wang Fuge's convoy and joked, "Don't mind, brother. We are also doing routine inspections. Your convoy is quite large, and it's the first time we have seen it, so please forgive us for checking it more carefully." As he said that, he waved his hand, and the soldiers of the two companies quickly approached the convoy with guns raised, and they were relieved until they were sure that it was a whole truck of goods. There were weapons and firearms on the car, but Wang Fuge told the truck driver behind him to hand over the guns honestly, and there was no problem at all. Wang's troops didn't ask much when they saw the guns. In this day and age, if merchants don't bring some weapons, the goods are basically the same as giving them to bandits on the road. Seeing that there was nothing unusual and Wang Fuge's convoy was so large, Wang Linlin invited Wang Fuge to the military camp, because the goods arrived at the Wang family, and they were directly received by the Wang family, and the price was set by the Wang family. Because the Wang family needed to operate this trade route for a long time, the price was clearly marked and fair. Wang Linlin explained to Wang Fuge, "Brother, you sit in the military camp for a while, and soon there will be officials from the fortress to receive this batch of goods." Wang Fuge nodded and agreed with a smile. He thought that because of Ren Xiaosu's relationship, he became a VIP in the Northwest, and because the Northwest gave him too many goods, he became a VIP of the Wang family. This can be regarded as a cause and effect. At this time, Wang Fuge suddenly saw many soldiers in the military camp gathering with their bags on their backs. He wondered, "Where are you going?" "It's not a secret," Wang Linlin said after listening. "Take a look at this newspaper. Brother, you just came back from the Northwest, so you don't know what happened in the Central Plains." When talking about this, Wang Linlin's smile gradually disappeared. Wang Fuga looked at the newspaper and found that the news of the invasion of barrier number 61 by plants was placed on the front page of the Hope Media newspaper. He was shocked and said, "Are plants so scary now?" "Yes," Wang Linlin sighed. "We didn't expect that the artificial intelligence seemed to have never defined plants as dangerous targets in the program, so there was no warning. Of course, I don't know the specific situation." But at this moment, Wang Fuga turned to the fifth page of the newspaper. He looked at a huge blank space below and it was printed, "Don't let the sadness of the times become your sadness 61. When Wang Fuga saw this sentence, all the pores on his body exploded, and he suddenly stood up and walked outside. Wang Linlin asked in confusion, "Where are you going, brother?" "I'm going to barrier number 61. Wang Fuga said. "Wait, why are you going to barrier number 61? Wang Linlin asked in surprise. "Didn't you just report on the news? It's very dangerous over there." No matter how dangerous it is, I have to go," Wang Fuga said. "My family is in barrier number 61. Wang Linlin was stunned. "Aren't you afraid of death?" "Of course," Wang Fuga said with difficulty. "I have to go even if I'm afraid. Please give me a monthly ticket. Please give me a monthly ticket." Chapter 606, Desperate Situation. In Los Angeles, all the reporters of Hope Media were sitting in the building quietly waiting for a call. At this time, one of their reporters followed Luo Lan to barrier 61. It happened that this reporter survived and passed the news to Hope Media by satellite phone. Afterwards, the other party hung up the phone because he seemed to be escaping, and everyone in Hope Media was speechless. Humanity had just experienced the invasion of experimental bodies, and now it was facing a disaster again. Editor-in-Chief Jiang Su once lamented that since last year, bad news has come one after another. At this time, Jiang Su suddenly saw the Hope Media newspaper at hand, and the advertisement on the fifth page attracted him. "Don't let the sadness of this era become your sadness 61. Jiang Su had thought about it several times before. What exactly does this 61 mean? Although he generously agreed to publish it at that time, Jiang Su actually hoped that the newspaper could be more pure and not become a tool for others to pass on news. It's just that he liked this sentence so much that he agreed to this matter. But now he looked at this 61 again with a different mentality. Did the boy hint at the disaster that barrier 61 would face? But how did the boy know? Was it the creeper planted by the boy? Jiang Su thought it was unlikely, but he could easily associate this 61 with the current events, but he couldn't figure out what was going on. That boy suddenly became mysterious in Jiang Su's mind. At this time, the phone that everyone was waiting for suddenly rang. Everyone looked at Jiang Su. The ringing of the phone also pulled Jiang Su's thoughts back. He answered the phone. "I am Jiang Su, Editor-in-Chief. I am Zhou Tao, and I am now in the center of barrier number 61. Jiang Su asked directly, "Are you injured? Have you found a place to take shelter?" Jiang Su did not directly ask about the news of barrier number 61, but was concerned about Zhou Tao's own safety first. Zhou Tao interrupted Jiang Su and said, "Editor-in-Chief, let me briefly talk about the matter first, otherwise it will be too late." "You say?" Jiang Su pressed the hands-free key, and there was a shorthand instrument prepared by a special recorder next to him. It is Jiang Su's responsibility as the editor-in-chief to care about his subordinates, but it is Zhou Tao's responsibility to pass on the reports from the front, and it is also his dignity as a reporter of Hope Media. Yesterday, the creepers suddenly invaded half of the barrier city, but for some reason it suddenly stopped, so the center of the barrier is temporarily safe. 24 hours later, it expanded and invaded again, but the scope of this invasion was not large. 6 hours later, just now, it spread to the center of the barrier again. Now there are only about a few thousand square meters of area left in the center of the barrier for residents to take refuge, but its frequency of invasion is getting faster and faster. We don't know when it will threaten the lives of everyone here again, Zhou Tao said hurriedly. Jiang Su was silent. A few thousand square meters sounded like a lot, but for the entire barrier, it was like the difference between watermelon and sesame. In such a large barrier, there are not many places for humans to hide. Jiang Su said, "I have received news that Wang's troops have already headed for barrier 61. A group is expected to arrive this afternoon. As for whether they have a way to deal with this creeper, we don't know." Zhou Tao said on the other end of the phone, "Please tell my parents that I love them. I may have been ignorant and often quarreled with them when I was young, but I understand their painstaking efforts when I grow up. Please also tell Zhang Liangayu not to wait for me to return." These words of explanation made Jiang Su understand that Zhou Tao already knew his situation. Before Wang's troops arrived, the creeper would definitely swallow them all up. It was too late. Do you regret being a reporter? Jiang Su sighed. At this moment, a noisy scream came from the other end of the phone. Zhou Tao said hurriedly, "The creeper has started to move again. I am now following Luolan and the others to move to a store." Beep. There was only a busy tone on the phone, and the editorial department of Hope Media was silent. Many female staff members burst into tears. They rarely experienced such a separation of life and death. Run! Zhou Qi ran wildly with Luolan on his back, while the Qing soldiers protected him and prepared to resist the creepers that might come to him at any time. There were not many places they could hide. The creepers behind them were like huge waves, and the screams and cries of the residents of the fortress beside them were mixed together, making it extremely noisy. Luolan suddenly laughed on Zhou Qi's back, and Zhou Qi frowned. "Everyone is running for their lives, and you still have the mind to laugh." "I remember one thing," Luolan said. "Do you remember when we were kids hanging out on the streets? A group of Qing family members followed me and Qing Zhen to fight with the gangsters." Zhou Qi also laughed. "Of course I don't remember. Qing Zhen was still timid at that time, but he was the most ruthless. And when we were playing horseback fighting, Qing Zhen was on my back and he was particularly vicious." They were obviously on the way to escape, but they talked about endless things, as if they were reminiscing about the past. It seemed that it would be too late if they didn't recall it. "Every time we had a fight, I was the one who got beaten by the old man when we got home," Luolan said with a smile. Qing Zhen stood by with an innocent look on his face, as if I had led him astray. "Now that I think about it, that was actually the happiest time. You hadn't yet joined the Qing family, and Qing Zhen wasn't even a shadow of the Qing family. But that wonderful time passed quickly. At that time, a huge turning point brought the happiness of Luolan, Qing Zhen and others to an abrupt end. Do you think we can escape?" Zhou Qi suddenly asked. "I guess we can't, unless there is a miracle," Luolan said calmly. "If we die here, what will happen to Qing Zhen?" Zhou Qi asked again. "He is already the head of the Qing family. Let's think about what we should do," Luolan asked. As they were talking, more than a dozen of them had already run to the door of a medium-sized supermarket. Zhou Qi ran in with big strides, shouting as he ran, "Pull down the rolling door." Facing the surging creepers, several Qing soldiers stood at the door fearlessly and pulled down the rolling door. When they were halfway through, the creepers had reached them. What was even more unfortunate was that the rolling door was stuck. One of the Qing soldiers shouted, "No one is allowed to retreat. You must pull down the rolling door." At the last moment, the rolling door was finally pulled again with a crash, locking everyone in this medium-sized supermarket. Because of the interview and the launch of the Dawen comics next month, I took a day off. In addition, I owed 3 chapters before, so I felt a little panicked. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 607 Saving Li Ran. Just an hour before the creepers began to engulf the center of the rampart, Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu were heading towards the center of the rampart. But when they passed the gate of a courtyard, Zhou Yingsu suddenly saw some banners scattered on the ground at their feet. She was stunned for a moment. "Master, why are there so many banners on the ground here?" "The number of banners is much more than the number of banners downstairs in the hotel where Luolan and the others are staying." Ren Xiaosu also became curious. He squatted down and pushed aside the leaves of the creepers. He suddenly saw a cheering sign made of LED lights. The sign was still lit. "Ranran, we love you." "Wait, Ranran? Why is it so familiar? It seems like I have heard it somewhere before," Ren Xiaosu asked in confusion. Zhou Yingsu was stunned. "Master, this is Li Ran's stage name. Have you forgotten it?" She suddenly looked at the courtyard next to her that was completely covered by creepers. "Is this Li Ran's home?" After Zhou Yingsu's reminder, Ren Xiaosu remembered that Li Ran's stage name was indeed Ranran, and he had also seen it in the newspaper, saying that Li Ran had returned safely to the rampart number 61. This news was expected to be the headline of the entertainment section of the media newspapers at that time. "Let's go," Ren Xiaosu said. "Even if her family is here, they will definitely not be spared." The creepers have safely surrounded her family. Master, let's go in and take a look, Zhou Yingsu pleaded. Li Ran is actually a good person, and the humans around here are just being used as reserve food by the creepers, and their blood is slowly being absorbed. Maybe Li Ran is not dead yet. Ren Xiaosu glanced at Zhou Yingsu. When did you become so close to her? Li Ran told me before that she is actually very pitiful. She is the illegitimate daughter of a powerful person in the Wang family. Her mother was a former servant of the Wang family. She was driven out of the family after she became pregnant, Zhou Yingsu explained. Fortunately, someone secretly took care of them later, so the mother and daughter did not starve to death. Li Ran doesn't have many friends, and the people around her are just because she is rich. She told me a lot that night, and I think she is still quite pitiful. It was the collapse of barrier number 74 that led Li Ran to reveal his heart in an extremely vulnerable situation. Zhou Yingsu's own girlhood was also very pitiful. Her mother was bedridden, and she had no choice but to sell herself to the Yang family as a spy. Therefore, the two of them felt a sense of sympathy. In addition, Zhou Yingsu was not a cold-blooded person. Now that she knew that Li Ran might be inside, she certainly wanted to see if she could save his life. Master, Zhou Yingsu said seriously, actually, you are not that cold-blooded, are you? Ren Xiaosu sighed. Then let's go in and take a look. The two of them pushed aside the creepers outside the house. The tentacles of the creepers suddenly turned into hard thorns when they were touched, and they softened again until they found no prey. Ren Xiaosu's scalp tingled when he saw this scene. How could an ordinary person be spared when encountering such a monster? Didn't you say that competing for its food would make it furious? Ren Xiaosu asked. Zhou Yingsu muttered, it shouldn't matter if we grab one. As soon as the two of them pushed the door open, they saw Li Ran hanging in the middle of the living room of the villa by countless vines. Li Ran looked pale. The vines entangled Li Ran's limbs. The strange vines and the fragile girl, hanging in the air, looked like a beautiful sacrificial offering, with a strange sense of beauty. Zhou Yingsu hurriedly took Ren Xiaosu's hand and came to Li Ran. She tried to feel Li Ran's pulse, but before her palm got close, the tentacles of the creeper came to block it. However, when they came to Zhou Yingsu, they stopped again and hovered beside Zhou Yingsu, seeming a little confused. Ren Xiaosu confirmed that this creeper must have no hearing, and its intelligence might not be that strong, otherwise it would not have allowed Zhou Yingsu to hide for so long. The IQ of the previous experimental subject was too high. Ren Xiaosu was afraid that this creeper was also a creature with high IQ, which would be very troublesome. He looked at the tentacles and said, I will cut off all the vines on Li Ran in a moment. Remember, if the creeper attacks me in a rage, you must give up Li Ran immediately. I will carry you and escape. Do you understand? Yes, Zhou Yingsu nodded. As soon as the voice fell, Ren Xiaosu's black knife appeared from nothingness, and in just a flick of the finger, all the vines on Li Ran were cut off. Zhou Yingsu did not hug Li Ran who fell at the first time, but held her pale palm in the air. The next moment, countless tentacles attacked Ren Xiaosu, and the vines in the whole villa twisted wildly, messy and irritable. Ren Xiaosu had made all the preparations, but when the tentacles came in front of him, they stopped again. A sharp thorn was hovering at the tip of Ren Xiaosu's nose, but Zhou Yingsu found that Ren Xiaosu was motionless, and did not even blink. She had received professional training, so she knew very well that when danger came, it was a normal instinct for humans to blink, but it was this blink that could lead to a huge difference in the outcome of the battle. Therefore, powerful warriors would go through such training to overcome their instincts, just like Yang Xiaojin could stabilize her heart rate by just taking deep breaths, which was an act that violated the body's instincts. Of course, this was also a sign of truly mastering one's own body. You carry Li Ran, and we'll leave here quickly, Ren Xiaosu said. He clearly felt a vague sense of crisis. Although the creeper had stopped at this time, Ren Xiaosu felt that it seemed to have noticed something this time. The two rushed out of the villa, and Zhou Yingsu pulled Li Ran up by one hand and carried him on her shoulder, as if he was carrying a bag of rice. Ren Xiaosu looked back at the tentacles in the villa. The tentacles followed them out of the villa, but when they were far away, they stopped chasing. Ren Xiao was relieved. To be honest, if Zhou Yingsu hadn't begged him repeatedly, he would never take such a risk for Li Ran. Li Ran on Zhou Yingsu's shoulder suddenly woke up with a whimper, and Zhou Yingsu put her down. Master, she is not dead yet. At this time, the dozen wounds on Li Ran's body pierced by the tentacles were still bleeding, and and a large amount of blood had been sucked away before, and now it is very likely that she is in a state of shock. Ren Xiaosu took out a black medicine and prepared to apply it to Li Ren, but found that Li Ren's clothes were full of holes, and some of the injured parts were very sensitive. "You come to apply the medicine to her," Ren Xiaosu said to Zhou Yingsu expressionlessly. Zhou Yingsu blinked innocently and looked at Ren Xiaosu. "Master, I hold your hand with my right hand and her hand with my left hand. How can I apply the medicine? Are you doing it on purpose? Do you want to watch the fun?" Ren Xiaosu raised his eyebrows. "Master, please don't always act like you are at a disadvantage." Zhou Yingsu couldn't help but started to complain. "We are girls, it's obviously you who are taking advantage, okay? Why do you act like we are taking advantage of you?" Chapter 608 I believe she can survive. What Zhou Yingsu said was an objective fact. Both of her hands were occupied, so she really couldn't apply the medicine to Li Ren. If she let go of her hands, the creeper next to her would probably swallow him up immediately. And Zhou Yingsu's mentality now was like watching a show. "Master, aren't you pure? You even have to wear gloves to hold my hand. Let's see what you can do now." Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said, "Forget it, I won't apply the medicine. I believe she can survive." "Zhou Yingsu, this is a matter of life and death. You can't just say you won't apply it. Master, are you still a human being?" But Li Ren, who was originally unconscious next to him, suddenly said, "I can apply it myself." Zhou Yingsu and Ren Xiaosu looked down and saw that Li Ren had woken up and was struggling to take the black medicine from Ren Xiaosu's hand. "Don't let go of my hand, or those creepers will attack you again," Zhou Yingsu added. The good show could not be watched. The strong desire to survive prompted Li Ren to wake up. Li Ren applied the black medicine to himself with one hand, and the blood on his face recovered at a visible speed. This black medicine not only has the effect of healing, but also can produce blood. Ren Xiaosu thought, the first commodity unlocked by this palace for him is such a versatile trauma medicine. Could it be that they are afraid that he will die accidentally? Then what is the internal effect of this black medicine? Li Ren found that her physical strength was recovering rapidly, and she was surprised. What kind of medicine is this? It's so useful. A secret recipe passed down from generation to generation, passed down to men, not women, Ren Xiaosu said casually. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Ren looked at him with shining eyes. "Are you here to save me?" As he said that, Li Ren was about to reach out to hug Ren Xiaosu, but Zhou Yingsu in the middle pulled her away. "I think you are dreaming. Don't say you. There are two people who saved you. Can you please use the word you? Why are you ignoring me? We are not here to save you. Don't be so conceited." Li Ren felt a little regretful that he didn't hug Ren Xiaosu. Isn't it said that a hero must marry a beautiful woman after saving her? Why does a beautiful woman want to marry her, but she doesn't seem to be happy? The plot is wrong. But there was no time to think about it. The creepers on the entire barrier suddenly became agitated. Ren Xiaosu looked at the creeper vines under his feet, which were like waves rushing towards the center of the barrier. "What's going on?" Ren Xiaosu was surprised. "It's like a new hunt has begun," Zhou Yingsu said. "Hurry up, go to the center of the fortress." After Luolan and the others hid in the store, the outside world's view was completely blocked by the rolling door, and the store became their last refuge. The Qing soldiers surrounded Zhouqi and Luolan, while Zhouqi sat cross-legged on the ground. The blue color in his eyes was getting dim. Those crazy creepers penetrated in from the gap under the rolling door, but no matter how much came in, Zhouqi would use his extraordinary ability to extract the water, and in a blink of an eye, they turned into dry vines and broke into powder. "How long can you hold on?" Luolan asked. "At most an hour," Zhouqi said with a worried look on his face. He asked Zhou Tao, a reporter from Hope Media, "You said that Wang's troops will come in the afternoon? What time is it now?" "It's 11 o'clock in the morning." Zhou Tao sat down against the wall, and he found a pen and a notebook from the store, and kept writing something on them. Luolan asked curiously, "What are you writing?" Zhou Tao, with dust on his face, said, "I want to record in detail everything that happened after the disaster. I have to write down everything that can't be explained clearly over the phone. This Ivy should only be interested in living things. I will call the editor-in-chief after I finish writing and tell him the location of the book. After Wang's troops destroy it, I hope reporters from the media will come to take the book away. This is the most authentic first-hand information. People can die, but the records must be left to the world." This is Zhou Tao's attitude and dignity. Luo Lan looked at Zhou Tao happily. There were still bloodstains on Zhou Tao's face and his palms were rubbed because of the fall. He said to Zhou Tao, I always thought that people in the Central Plains were quite empty-headed. Look at Wang family. They obviously have ambitions, but they have to throw dirty water on my Qing family. But I didn't expect that you reporters from Hope Media are quite cute. Zhou Tao didn't even raise his head. It's just my duty. With a group of people like you, the inheritance of mankind will not be completely cut off. Anyway, I can't do this, Luo Lan said admiringly. The biggest advantages of Fatty Luo are, first, he values friendship and reason, and second, he never envies others' talents. If the other party is better than him, he will admit it, and admitting it will not lose any meat. At this time Luo Lan looked at Zhou Qi again. Sorry for bringing you to the Central Plains. Zhou Qi curled his lips. I'm here to make money, what's there to be sorry about? Wealth and honor are sought in danger, I know this. Actually, you don't have to work so hard to make money, Luo Lan sighed. Although you love money, Qing Zhen and I regard you as your best friend. We are just worried that you don't regard us as your friends. Zhou Qi was silent for a moment. You are still lying when you are about to die. Aren't you afraid of going to the hell of tongue pulling? Luo Lan chuckled twice, and Zhou Qi laughed too. The Qing soldiers next to them didn't know why the two big guys were suddenly laughing when they were about to die. I didn't expect that I would end up dying with a fat guy like you. What bad luck, Zhou Qi said. He was slowly approaching the state of exhaustion. If I get out alive, can you give me Qing Zhen's secretary? Luo Lan's eyes widened. Why do you always think about my brother's secretary? As soon as he said this, the creepers outside seemed to sense that Zhou Qi was exhausted, and suddenly swept a large number of vines in. Then, the creepers did not attack the people in the store, but used the vines to lift the shutter door out. Amid the clattering noise, Luo Lan stared in amazement at the shutter door being lifted away by the creepers, and the whole store suddenly opened up. He murmured, there is no door. Zhou Qi didn't know whether he was answering himself or describing the objective facts in front of him. However, Zhou Qi was stunned when he saw the scene outside. Look, are there 3 people walking towards us? Luo Lan looked carefully. Am I dazzled? Isn't that Ren Xiaosu? He kept muttering along the way, if only Ren Xiaosu was here, they would definitely not die. When Luo Lan was muttering, Zhou Qi was still a little unconvinced, but now he was convinced. But Ren Xiaosu, Zhou Yingsu, and Li Ran were walking hand in hand on the creeper vines, as if nothing had happened. Amid the crying, chaos, and the hustle and bustle of the world, everyone was busy saving their lives and reminiscing about their lives. But at this moment, 3 people walked hand in front of everyone, looking like they were about to fly a kite or have a picnic. Time seemed to slow down a bit, and the 3 people were slowed down frame by frame in everyone's eyes, and then the pictures frame by frame shattered everyone's worldview. Ren Xiaosu waved in surprise when he saw Luo Lan. They were like old friends who had met on a street corner. They were going to have mutton soup buns together. Zhou Qi was convinced. He was really convinced. It was shocking enough to see a living person among the fierce and violent creepers. They were actually holding hands. What? Are they going shopping? This was too weird. Chapter 609 The Mysterious Knife. Luo Lan looked at the 3 people outside, and even ignored the creeper that was about to sweep over. Zhou Qi, are you convinced now? Zhou Qi, who was almost exhausted, said in a daze, I am convinced, I am convinced. According to Zhou Qi's thinking before, no matter how awesome Ren Xiaosu was, he was just an extraordinary person like him. Extraordinary people are all arrogant. Who has more arms and fewer legs than who? Zhou Qi thought that even if he faced Li Shunten, he might not be helpless. He could assassinate him if he fought head-on. Moreover, Zhou Qi was one of the earliest awakened extraordinary people, and his physical fitness was better than most of the current extraordinary people. So Luo Lan always mentioned Ren Xiaosu in Zhou Qi's ear, which annoyed Zhou Qi, making him seem useless. But now there is a reference point. It's different. He can't beat this creeper, and the other party is walking calmly on the creeper, holding the girl's hand. This visual impact is simply sour and refreshing. The point is why he still holds the girl's hand in such a dangerous place. Just when the creepers were about to entangle Luo Lan and the others, a black knife shadow suddenly flashed in front of them, so fast that they couldn't see what it was, and cut off all the creepers in front of them. Zhou Qi suddenly looked up at Ren Xiaosu, and saw that the young man was holding a black knife in his right hand, But Joki didn't understand how the other party cut the vines in the air when they were still hundreds of meters away. This knife was extremely mysterious. Of course, the main thing was that it couldn't be mysterious. Ren Xiaosu had used the Shadow Gate to hit Luolan's forehead before, so the action had to be fast, otherwise Luolan would find out. The creeper with its tentacles cut off fell into rage. Although its IQ level was still very low, even a fool would fight back if he was beaten. In its perception, Ren Xiaosu, Zhou Yingsu, and Li Ran were still invisible, so it focused all its anger on Luolan and the others. The next moment, Luolan watched the creeper raise a huge green wave and hit them. The vines were entangled together like a huge palm. Luolan was a little desperate. This kind of power might not be resisted by any extraordinary person. But he suddenly felt that he had no regrets. Just like he told Joki, he and Qingzhen had always regarded Joki as their best friend. They were just worried that he would not regard them as friends. The same was true for Ren Xiaosu. Luolan had always envied Ren Xiaosu and admired him. He regarded him as a very good friend. Otherwise, he would not have invited Ren Xiaosu many times and would not have sent an armored brigade to attack B1 River. But what he was most worried about was that Ren Xiaosu did not regard him as a friend. But now, in this dangerous city, the other party came to rescue. How many people in this world can really go through fire and water for their friends? Luolan felt that he should be content. With such a friend, there should be no regrets in life. Luolan shouted, "Don't save me, run, we can't beat it." But he saw that Ren Xiaosu actually started to run without saying a word. The countless nanorbits in Ren Xiaosu's body began to surge wildly, as if they hadn't moved their bodies for too long. When those cute little guys sensed the call of their master, they seemed to cheer and roar in his body, and were restless with joy. They penetrated from Ren Xiaosu's blood without hesitation, and the nanorbits formed a tiny honeycomb structure on the surface of the master's skin, and instantly became the master's most solid outer armor. This scene was like a long journey for the nanorbits, and the distance from the blood vessels to the surface of the skin was like a great adventure. But this scene was too fast for Luolan and the others, as if Ren Xiaosu was racing with a green palm, but time was on Ren Xiaosu's side. In the pupils, the process of Ren Xiaosu completing the entire outer armor was just a moment, and the handsome boy turned into a steel beast. As Ren Xiaosu rushed to help, because he had let go of Zhou Yingsu's hand, the creepers also began to attack him, but the creepers' spikes were somewhat powerless against the outer armor. The outer armor that even bullets could not penetrate was one of Ren Xiaosu's greatest reliances at the moment. When the green giant hand was about to slap, Luolan watched excitedly as Ren Xiaosu rushed to them, then turned around and faced all the storms alone, and jumped up. At this time, Luolan could only see the back of Ren Xiaosu wearing outer armor, facing the sun and crashing into the creeper vines like taking off. The black knife split the palm abruptly, cutting it in two at the wrist. Li Ran watched this scene from afar. So this is why Zhou Yingsu was willing to be a maid? That boy always gave people an unparalleled sense of security in the most dangerous moments. That kind of power saved them quickly. By some time, Ren Xiaosu roared as he fell from the air. Zhou Yingsu rushed over with Li Ran, and before the creepers could organize a new counterattack, she quickly shouted to everyone, "Luolan, come and hold Li Ran's hand," and the people behind hold Luolan's hand, one by one, "Don't mess around." Except for Zhou Tao, everyone present was a smart man who had experienced many battles. After hearing this, they immediately understood what Zhou Yingsu meant. No wonder Ren Xiaosu wanted to hold hands with the other party before. It turned out that the other party had some ability to avoid being attacked by creepers. The Qing soldiers carried Luolan and ran to Zhou Yingsu, and forcibly stuffed Luolan's hand into Zhou Yingsu's hand, and then sent the exhausted Joki to Luolan. Immediately afterwards, the Qing soldiers immediately held hands with each other in an orderly manner, and the team leader held Joki's hand. Generally, at this time, if someone in a desperate situation knew that as long as they held Zhou Yingsu's hand, they would definitely rush forward, and eventually the scene would be extremely chaotic. But the Qing soldiers did not do this. Instead, they completed the queue in an instant, with the team leader in front and the other soldiers connected in sequence behind him. The last soldier even had time to look for Zhou Tao, a reporter from Hope Media. Just as everyone was holding hands, the creeper that was sweeping towards them suddenly lost its target. Ren Xiaosu stopped fighting the creeper and held the reporter Zhou Tao's hand. "Go," Leave here before it reacts. Now that Luo Lan has been found, his mission is complete and he must evacuate as soon as possible. A group of people held hands on the dense creeper vines and began a grand escape. This scene was as weird as it could be. Luo Lan said with a toothache, "The last time I held hands with so many people was when we were playing games in kindergarten." But Ren Xiaosu did not answer him, because he found that this time, perhaps too much food was snatched from the creeper, so that although the creeper did not attack them for a while, it always had tentacles following them and could attack again at any time. Chapter 610 These vines can't trap my master. Ren Xiaosu was glad that he had found Luo Lan smoothly. He followed the direction of the creeper vines and found Luo Lan's position at the end. But this was probably because Zhou saved himself. If he hadn't held on for so long and dried up so many vines, the creeper wouldn't have been so furious and wanted to concentrate its strength to destroy them, and Ren Xiaosu wouldn't have been able to find their location. A group of people fled aimlessly. There were no other goods in the barrier. The barrier was completely occupied by a plant. Before this, they really hadn't thought that even plants were so terrible in this world. At this time, as everyone was running away, the creeper's vine tentacles were always following them, without attacking or giving up. What should Ren Xiaosu do? Luo Lan shouted breathlessly. Zhou Yingsu looked back. Because Ren Xiaosu was wearing an outer armor to resist the vines, he became the final target of the creeper and the entire barrier. The creeper seemed to want to pour all its anger on him, and the endless vines were sweeping over. Vines surrounded Ren Xiaosu like a ball of wool, and the spikes on the tentacles were all trying to dismember the outer armor. There was no movement in the vines, as if Ren Xiaosu was powerless against so many vines. Luo Lan shouted, "Let's go back and save him. We can't leave him here alone." But Zhou Yingsu said unhappily, "Take care of yourself. These vines can't trap my master." Luo Lan was almost in tears. How come Ren Xiaosu has another extraordinary maid after not seeing her for a few days? Why are all the extraordinary people gathering around Ren Xiaosu? As if to confirm Zhou Yingsu's words, when all the vines were surrounding him, Luo Lan actually saw a black knife piercing out from the inside of the vines, and then cutting across, and the seemingly tough vines were cut off like a dead tree or rotten wood. The steel beast with a metallic texture jumped out from the vines. Luo Lan heard Ren Xiaosu's voice, "Why don't you leave? Leave quickly." Luo Lan thought to himself, "Well, this guy really doesn't need to be rescued." Everyone started running again, and Ren Xiaosu quickly caught up with him. None of the vines could stop him. When Ren Xiaosu came to Li Ran's side, the outer armor instantly retreated into the blood. After entering the body, those cute nanorobots instantly retracted their mechanical arms, curled up into a small ball and began to charge, waiting for the next call from the master. But just when all the nanorobots were about to enter the body, a vine suddenly wanted to pierce Ren Xiaosu's left arm. In a hurry, Ren Xiaosu mobilized the nanorobots again to gather on the surface of the skin of his arm and block the attack. The price he paid was that a small piece of the defensive armor constructed by the nanorobots fell off the ground because of the stab. After all, the nanorobots were activated again in a hurry. Ren Xiaosu felt that losing a few nanorobots was not a big problem. Luo Lan mentioned before that King Shi had already fully mastered the technology of nanorobots, and all the scientific researchers were in their hands. So if Ren Xiaosu wanted to replenish the nanorobots, he could go to King Shi to get them at any time. Or given his relationship with King Shi, it was reasonable for him to ask the other party to deliver the goods to his door. Without time to think about it, Ren Xiaosu put on his gloves again and held Li Ran's hand. Zhou Yingsu curled her lips secretly. During the escape, she still had time to think. The master treated everyone equally. But at this critical moment, you still have the mind to wear an extra pair of gloves? When Ren Xiaosu held Li Ran's hand, Li Ran's sense of happiness suddenly increased. But she immediately found that the hand she was holding was furry. The creeper stopped attacking Ren Xiaosu again, but this time Ren Xiaosu's direct confrontation with it was too intense. Even if it had a low IQ, it would not notice that something was wrong. All the vines turned their spearheads to point at Ren Xiaosu, but did not take action, as if they were still thinking about something. Hurry up, hurry up. Ren Xiaosu saw that the situation was not right. I hope it has a memory of only 7 seconds like a fish. If it can forget us after 7 seconds, that would be perfect. Luo Lan thought as he ran. This escape was really different. Everyone held hands and ran wildly. There was even a little bit of joy in the tension and fear, as if they were running towards a field of hope. But no one noticed that when the nanorobot on Ren Xiaosu's arm fell off, a surveillance camera on the street suddenly turned to the nanorobot. After the outer armor fell off, it would immediately turn into dull gray, but this time, when it fell to the ground, it turned into a silver liquid again. Those little guys stayed in place in a daze, as if a program had entered their bodies and began to compete with Ren Xiaosu for control. But no matter how hard the program tried, it could not wrest control over it. It was not until Ren Xiaosu was far away that it found a glimmer of opportunity. After flashing the system again, the little guys became smart again, and then the silver liquid metal kept flowing towards the surveillance camera. When this small group of liquid nanorobots approached the lamppost equipped with surveillance, they instantly merged into the lamppost and disappeared. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu frowned and noticed something. Although those nanorobots fell, they were still in his perception. But now, they have completely cut off contact with Ren Xiaosu. Maybe it's because the distance is too far, Ren Xiaosu thought, or maybe it's because the energy is exhausted. Ren Xiaosu didn't take this matter to heart. Not many nanorobots were lost, and Ren Xiaosu didn't even need to ask Wings for additional replenishment. This loss had little impact on the entire outer armor. Surrounded by creeper vines, Ren Xiaosu and his companions ran for more than 10 kilometers. Luo Lan was almost exhausted. Later, Zhou Yingsu and Zhou Qi carried him along. Fatty Luo flew with his feet off the ground all the way, and suddenly felt that this escape was more festive. Slowly, the creeper vines were getting closer and closer to them. Ren Xiaosu had an ominous premonition. Sure enough, the next second, the creeper vines began to try to attack them, and he was the first to bear the brunt. Master, what should I do? My ability is useless. Zhou Yingsu was anxious. If your ability failed, wouldn't everyone die here? Luo Lan no longer had the intention to run to the field of hope. Comrade, think about whether there is any other way. But Zhou Yingsu tried to communicate with the creeper, but could only feel a violent emotion flowing freely among all the vines. Zhou Yingsu was powerless. Zhou Qi wanted to use his power again to drain the nearby vines, but there were too many vines, so much so that the backlash of his power made him spit out a mouthful of blood. Ren Xiaosu looked around. The black knife in his hand was still constantly cutting off the vines that were sweeping towards him. Luo Lan sighed. To be able to survive until now, I am luckier than the hundreds of thousands of people in the entire barrier. But at this time, Li Ran found that the hand he was holding had actually been pulled away. Ren Xiaosu was alone and retreated instead of advancing. Luo Lan looked back at Ren Xiaosu in astonishment, and the other's expression was hidden in his hood. Ren Xiaosu said, "The person it hates the most now is me. You keep going forward." Chapter 611. You only have one chance. Are you ready? In fact, Ren Xiaosu had already understood that Zhou Yingsu snatched food from the creeper's mouth. Although there were more than 10 people snatching food, the creeper would not discover their whereabouts. The reason why the creeper was so angry now was that it had never been able to do anything to Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu cut off so many of its tentacles, and now he wanted to escape easily and simply? There is no such a good thing in the world. If you punch a fool, the fool will also fight back. Since the hatred is all on Ren Xiaosu himself, what's wrong with Ren Xiaosu letting them go first? Sure enough, as soon as he let go, the creeper's spearheads were all pointed at him, and no longer attacked Zhou Yingsu and the others. Zhou Yingsu looked back at Ren Xiaosu and was stunned. Master, I won't leave. Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, didn't you just tell Luo Lan to take care of yourself? Zhou Yingsu was about to cry. It's different now, Master, you leave with us, there must be other ways. The maid used to think that when she made enough money with a master, she would enjoy life alone. Who wants to serve a stinky man for a lifetime? It's not good to be a rich woman alone. She wanted to leave twice, but she stayed. Zhou Yingsu comforted herself at that time. It's just that I haven't made enough money, I can't leave yet, I will make more money with a master. But gradually, I don't know when that thought has never appeared again. At this moment, Zhou Yingsu looked at Ren Xiaosu surrounded by vines alone, and her heart suddenly hurt. But she obviously just wanted to make a lot of money with him. Why did she feel so painful? Let's go. Ren Xiaosu smiled and cut off countless vines again. I'll meet you outside the barrier in a while. But at this time, Ren Xiaosu was stunned by the surrounding environment. Then Luo Lan and the others stood there and saw that Ren Xiaosu was cutting vines while taking out a newspaper from somewhere. Luo Lan looked at Ren Xiaosu flipping the newspaper with one hand, so leisurely, so comfortable. He suddenly felt that in fact, it was not a problem for Ren Xiaosu to stay here alone. Just looking at the other party's calm and relaxed appearance, there was no attitude towards danger. The key is, what newspaper are you reading at this time? At this time, Ren Xiaosu suddenly looked up. He compared the newspaper in his hand with the nearby buildings, and even raised the newspaper for comparison. The newspaper in Ren Xiaosu's hand was from more than 10 days ago. At that time, there was a news saying that the creeper in the barrier number 61 had not withered in winter, and many people came to watch and take pictures like tourists. The newspaper also included a photo of the family that planted the creeper. The creeper first grew from there, and then spread out piece by piece. The news also interviewed the residents at that time. The residents laughed and said that they just scattered the seeds casually, and they didn't expect the creeper to grow so well. At that time, Ren Xiaosu was very impressed that there was a very eye-catching red sign on the high-rise building next to the residential building, Jianfu Fukao Footbath Healthcare. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu looked at a residential building in the distance, and then looked at the side of it. Isn't it Jianfu Fukao Footbath Healthcare? Exclamation mark. If plants can't move their roots, then doesn't it mean that the roots of this creeper are under that residential building? Exclamation mark. Luo Lan collapsed and said, "Brother, you are my eldest brother, can you please stop reading the newspaper at this time? Are you showing off your martial arts skills?" Seeing that the creepers attacked Ren Xiaosu in waves, Ren Xiaosu was able to block them all while doing two things at the same time. Ren Xiaosu looked at Zhou Yingsu. "If I help you find its root system, how sure are you to control it?" Zhou Yingsu was stunned for a moment. She didn't expect Ren Xiaosu to say this suddenly, but she immediately came to her senses and replied, "If it is still a plant, then I am 100% sure." Ren Xiaosu laughed, "Then I will give you a gift." As he said that, Ren Xiaosu suddenly broke through the blockade of the creeper and rushed all the way to the red sign. It was not until then that everyone realized that Ren Xiaosu had just read the newspaper to find clues to the creeper's roots. Luo Lan sighed, "At such a critical moment, you can still keep your sanity and find clues. I admire you." Zhou Yingsu snorted, "Otherwise, why is he my master? Fatty, run a distance by yourself, don't let me carry you all the time, a man doesn't think it's shabby." Luo Lan was so angry that he wanted to curse on the spot. Why is the treatment between people so different? When this girl is disgusting, what she says is really unpleasant. At this time, when Ren Xiaosu suddenly turned and rushed towards the root system of the creeper seemed to be even crazier. It seemed to realize what Ren Xiaosu was going to do. The root system is the lifeblood of a plant. No matter how powerful this creeper is, it can't transcend its own natural rules, just like a human transcendent will die instantly if hit in the brain and heart. Although everyone has become stronger, they still haven't transcended the original rules. For a while, Ren Xiaosu led the way at the front of the team. As he got closer and closer to the signboard, the creepers around him became more and more crazy. This also confirmed Ren Xiaosu's thoughts. The creeper was also afraid. If it wasn't afraid, it wouldn't react so violently now. Luo Lan and others saw Ren Xiaosu put on the outer armor again. Not only that, Ren Xiaosu didn't know where he got the grenade from, and he didn't deliberately throw it anywhere, just to constantly disrupt the creeper's attention and attack rhythm. "Wait, Ren Xiaosu, be careful of the sewer, its tentacles will come out of the sewer." Luo Lan was still frightened by this. He almost went into the sewer before, but he saw someone being dragged into the sewer with his own eyes. But Luo Lan was a little curious. It seemed that he had never seen any creeper vines sneak attack Ren Xiaosu from the manhole cover along the way. In fact, when Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu went into the house to rescue Ren Xiaosu let Zhou Yingsu go in first, and then quietly released Lao Su from behind. But Lao Su was not a living being at all, so the creeper had no interest in it at all. At this time, Lao Su was under Ren Xiaosu's feet, following his steps closely and rushing non-stop. With Lao Su's strength, no matter how many tentacles were hidden in the sewer, it was impossible for them to drill out of the manhole cover to attack Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu glanced at the red sign that was within 100 meters, and then estimated the energy of his outer armor. He turned around and asked Zhou Yingsu, "Are you afraid?" "No." Zhou Yingsu shook her head. She was not lying. When Ren Xiaosu was fighting against all the obstacles ahead, She was really not afraid. Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, "You only have one chance. Are you ready?" Chapter 612, All Things Return to One. Ren Xiaosu also relied on the outer armor to face this terrifying creeper head-on. Without the outer armor, it would be difficult for Ren Xiaosu to deal with the ubiquitous tentacle spikes. But the outer armor has always had a disadvantage: energy shortage. Relying solely on the bioenergy in the human body to replenish energy is too slow, and the nanorobots themselves are small in size and can only store extremely limited energy. Therefore, after a long period of high-intensity fighting, Ren Xiaosu's outer armor was already a little bit unable to hold up, so he told Zhou Yingsu that there was only one chance. If he failed this time, he could only continue to run for his life and leave here quickly by all means. He also had a trump card, which was the steam train, but the steam train was not omnipotent. Ren Xiaosu was worried that the steam train was so huge that it might be entangled by the creeper and could not move. It's still about 100 meters away from its roots. Ren Xiaosu turned around and said, "Zhou Qi, can you still fight? I need you to protect the others here. I'll take Zhou Yingsu in." Zhou Qi smiled and spat the blood foam in his mouth on the ground. "It's rare to be a hero. How can I say no? You can go with confidence. Before I die, no one here will die before me. I'm still waiting for Boss Luo to assign Qingzhen's female secretary to me after I go back." Luo Lan laughed and scolded, "That's all you can do." Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Qi had never dealt with each other before, but today they were in trouble together, and he also had a deep impression of this Zhou Qi. "Let's go," Ren Xiaosu said and continued to rush forward. Zhou Yingsu let go of Li Ren and Luo Lan's hands and followed closely behind Ren Xiaosu. When Zhou Yingsu let go of his hand, the creeper found a new enemy, and the dense vines swept towards them, while Zhou Qi sat there and closed his eyes. Zhou Qi's body was lit up with a blue light, and the vines approaching them all withered in an instant. Within a radius of 10 meters, no vines could get close to him for a while. But Luo Lan found that Zhou Qi's face was getting paler and paler. He sat beside Zhou Qi and felt a little melancholy. Since he knew there were extraordinary people in these years, he envied those extraordinary people. His willpower was not worse than others, but why couldn't he awaken? For example, at this time, Luo Lan could only lament that he was useless and could only watch Zhou Qi overdraw his mental power to protect everyone around him. If he, Luo Lan, was also an extraordinary person, even if he really died this time, he could proudly say to Zhou Qi in the underground that he also died with dignity. Unfortunately, he was not an extraordinary person. Just when Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu were still 50 meters away from the root system, Zhou Qi finally couldn't hold on any longer. Within a radius of 10 meters, some fish that slipped through the net gradually appeared, and a sharp tentacle pierced Zhou Qi's heart mercilessly. Zhou Qi sensed all this, and he knew that he was probably about to die. To be honest, he couldn't figure out whether his life was worth it. "Qingzhen, I promised you, and I did it," Zhou Qi said in his heart and prepared to die. But something strange happened. A Qing soldier stood in front of Zhou Qi, allowing the vine to pierce his body, and then he grabbed the vine with his arm to prevent the sharp tentacles from continuing to hurt Zhou Qi behind him. The body of the Qing soldier was pierced, and the ruptured internal organs began to bleed, flowing out of his wounds and out of his mouth. Luo Lan was stunned on the spot. "You." The Qing soldier smiled at Luo Lan. "Boss, take care." After saying that, he lowered his head weakly. Zhou Qi used his overdrawn mental power to protect everyone, and these Qing soldiers abided by their duties and used their lives to protect Zhou Qi and Luo Lan. It's easy to say that you are ready to die, but how many people in this world can really do it? The afternoon sun was fierce, and Luo Lan felt something stuck in his throat, choking him. Another Qing soldier died in front of Zhou Qi, blocking a vine for him. This was the team leader. Before he died, he smiled at Luo Lan and said, "I, as a team leader, am not as conscious as my soldiers, and let him die before me. I am really ashamed." After that, the team leader was silent. Luo Lan knelt on the ground beside him and burst into tears, but he couldn't make a sound. Suddenly, Luo Lan fainted, and a Qing soldier rushed forward to check. One of the Qing soldiers was confused. "The boss seems to have a thin layer of golden light on his body. Is it my eyes?" Ren Xiaosu didn't know what was happening behind him, but just mechanically chopped the creeper vines around him. When the nanorobots on his body began to disintegrate and fall, Ren Xiaosu immediately took all the little guys back into his body to prevent them from dying. He had to use his body to resist the remaining 30 meters. Zhou Yingsu followed behind Ren Xiaosu silently. She looked at the stormy waves in front of her, but no threat could reach her because Ren Xiaosu blocked them all. She looked at the back of the boy in front of her. The strong wind caused by the dancing vines blew her hair and clothes a little messy. Zhou Yingsu suddenly said behind Ren Xiaosu, "Master, I really envy Yang Xiaojun." Ren Xiaosu didn't hear clearly, and shouted without turning his head, "What did you say?" "It's okay," Zhou Yingsu smiled, "I said you are handsome." Ren Xiaosu laughed, "You have a pair of eyes that are good at discovering." At this time, it was the last 5 meters. Ren Xiaosu cut all the vines in front of him, and then used 4-4s to forcibly open a short passage for Zhou Yingsu. He turned around and shouted to Zhou Yingsu, "There is only one chance." As he said that, he dragged Zhou Yingsu's body and threw Zhou Yingsu into the passage with all his strength, directly to the roots of the creeper. Then, Ren Xiaosu was drowned by the creeper. Gradually, the roots of the creeper began to emit green fluorescence, and in an instant, it was radiant. The barrier suddenly became quiet. This was the long-lost piece of barrier number 61. The creeper vines no longer twisted to eat people, and the wind seemed to stop for a moment. The vines of the entire barrier began to wither gradually. Ren Xiaosu rushed out of the vines and watched everything quietly. Now there were no vines attacking him anymore. But it was different from what Ren Xiaosu expected. He thought that after Zhou Yingsu controlled the vines would not change. But at this time, he could see with his naked eyes that countless green fluorescence was gathering from all directions. They followed the branches of the vines and gathered all the way to the location of the roots. This scene was like, countless energies were gathering at one point, and those vines that lost energy were as dry as firewood. The point where all the energy gathered was Zhou Yingsu. Chapter 613 Luolan Awakens. 61 Barrier. A huge truck convoy suddenly arrived at the market town. Wang Fuge sat in the truck, anxiously looking at the barrier in front of him. He saw that the barrier was indeed as the legend said, with countless creepers, and once someone approached, they would be immediately attacked by the tentacles of the creepers. The Wang's troops who arrived together were discussing how to solve the current problem, but in fact, no one had a particularly good solution. Finally, someone said that there should be no survivors inside, so just burn the barrier with a fire. No matter how powerful this creeper is, it is afraid of fire. This time, the Wang's troops were able to arrive early, thanks to Wang Fuge. The army had assembled before, but they wanted to set off temporarily, and some military vehicles did not come back outside, so Wang Fuge took the initiative to propose that they unload the goods into the barracks first, and then use his loaded trucks to transport the soldiers, so that the Wang's troops would not need to wait any longer. Therefore, the commander of the Wang's troops stationed at the number 62 rampart, who arrived first, was very grateful to Wang Fuge, and even called him a brother, praising him for his sense of justice and being a good man. Wang Fuge smiled bitterly, saying that he was not being righteous, but that he also had relatives who might be in the rampart, so he also hoped that the troops could arrive as soon as possible, and maybe they could save his relatives. At this time, Wang Fuge heard the commander of Wang's troops say that they wanted to burn down barrier number 61, and he immediately became anxious. "Commander, my family is still inside, you can't burn it down." The commander Wang Linlan smiled bitterly and said, "Brother, even if your family is really in there, he can't survive. I just received the latest instructions from above. Satellites have captured the entire barrier turning green. No one can survive this catastrophe." "Impossible." Wang Fuge's head buzzed, and then he shouted, "He is different, he will definitely survive. He survived such a difficult situation back then, this time." As he said that, Wang Fuge rushed into the barrier, and Jiang Wu behind him suddenly grabbed him. Wang Fuge turned back woodenly, "Teacher Jiang Wu, you also think Xiaosu will die, right?" "No," Jiang Wu shook his head, "You stay, I'll go find him." Just as they were arguing, someone exclaimed, "Look, how come the creeper at the entrance of the barrier gate has begun to wither?" Everyone turned their eyes and found that it was really the case. The lush creeper had really withered. What happened? Did someone solve it in there? Wang Linlan frowned as he watched all this. Now no one could tell what happened inside. Was there something wrong with the creeper itself, or was there someone who solved it in there? He just suspected that no one in the world could solve this terrifying creature, right? In a person's life, he will experience dozens of springs, summers, autumns and winters. In spring, Everything sprouts. In summer, everything is lush. In autumn, the leaves turn yellow, and in winter, they are covered with ice and snow. But at this time, the dense and strange green of barrier number 61 was disappearing at a very fast speed, turning into a withered and dull color. It was like going from spring to summer to winter in the blink of an eye, as if someone had just waved his hand and washed away the paint on this oil painting, waiting for the color to fade away bit by bit. Ren Xiaosu was shocked by everything that happened around him. Just because the area was so large, the entire vast barrier was undergoing such a huge change, which made people feel that it was more like the power of nature. The creeper grew normally at first, until the Spark Company and Anjing Temple had a big battle in the barrier, causing the blood of the extraordinary to drip on its branches and leaves. Later, it began to eat rats in the sewer, then started to eat cats and dogs, and finally started to eat people. At first, it ate people secretly, probably because it was also worried about being discovered by humans. Low intelligence does not mean that it has no wisdom. This creeper is actually more like a child. No one taught it how to get along with the world, so it grew selfishly. Is human nature good or evil at the beginning? Ren Xiaosu felt that neither of these two definitions fit his idea. He felt that human nature is selfish at the beginning, whether right or wrong. Later, the people in the barrier discovered the trick of the creeper and wanted to use a flamethrower to end its life. The creeper was naturally unwilling to be destroyed by humans, and it was obviously the stronger party, so it buried the entire barrier with anger. But none of this is important. What is important is that it has absorbed the energy of hundreds of thousands of lives in the entire barrier, including extraordinary people. It surrounds the barrier bit by bit, and the energy it needs is actually extremely huge, but it is the hundreds of thousands of lives in the barrier that provide it with nutrients, allowing it to expand so quickly. It can be said that it sacrificed a barrier to complete its growth. And now, the energy after sacrificing a barrier is converging towards Zhou Yingsu. After the branches and leaves withered and broke, Ren Xiaosu saw Zhou Yingsu standing quietly on the roots of the creeper with her eyes closed. Her hand was on a main branch of the creeper next to her. After the roots were controlled, the creeper could only let Zhou Yingsu manipulate it. Countless green energies were drawn from the branches and flowed into Zhou Yingsu's body from her fingers. Ren Xiaosu wondered if Zhou Yingsu had beaten the creeper to death. But what kind of extraordinary person would a person who achieved success at the cost of a barrier become? Zhou Yingsu was probably the first person in human history to experience such a thing. Although the maidservant had a good auxiliary role in the past, she was really lacking in combat power. But what about this time? The maidservant who especially liked to eat melon seeds and had no image in front of Ren Xiaosu was now like a goddess in a barrier, controlling the life and death of a barrier. The next moment, when all the creepers withered, Zhou Yingsu also fell into coma. Ren Xiaosu walked to Zhou Yingsu to check and found that her breathing and pulse were normal. Perhaps she had absorbed too much energy, so she couldn't bear it. To be honest, Ren Xiaosu had never experienced such a thing, so he didn't know what to do. At this time, Zhou Yingsu's body was hot and cold, and her expression was changing. Ren Xiaosu hesitated for a moment, but finally picked her up from the ground. But suddenly, Ren Xiaosu found that everything around him was covered by a layer of golden light. He turned around and saw Luolan getting up from the ground, and the other party was covered with a layer of golden light. Ren Xiaosu was stunned on the spot. You awakened. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 614 Benefactor. Luolan's previous coma and the light that was gradually fading from his body were both proving to Ren Xiaosu a fact. Luolan had really awakened. Before this, Ren Xiaosu had already gotten used to the fact that this fat man was just an ordinary person, but now, he had awakened. But Luolan did not answer Ren Xiaosu's question, but looked at the Qing soldiers beside Zhou Qi. They still stood there, guarding Zhou Qi tightly. Ren Xiaosu saw countless dead branches piercing through the bodies of these Qing soldiers, but none of them hurt Zhou Qi. These Qing soldiers, with their mortal bodies, built the world's strongest wall for Zhou Qi. Luolan stood in front of them and said, "Actually, I am a fat man with a good fortune, which is why you are so devoted to me. If I hadn't been born in the Qing family and had a powerful brother, I would probably be much worse than you. I am not particularly hard-working, I am lustful, And I am greedy. I am obviously timid, but I want to do the most dangerous thing in the world. No one interrupted Luolan, and everyone listened to him quietly. Luolan continued, when I came out, I joked with you that I would find you the most beautiful wife in the Central Plains and let you take her back to the Southwest. I'm sorry, I didn't do it. I was just bragging at the time. You know, I am used to bragging and can't control my mouth. Actually, I am a little off topic. I originally wanted to say that I will face many dangers in the future. Can you continue to protect me? Luolan looked at these dead Qing soldiers steadily. The fortress became silent, and everyone could only hear their own breathing. But when Luolan finished speaking, golden figures came out of the bodies of the Qing soldiers. The golden outlines even retained the appearance of these soldiers. The team leader smiled and looked at Luolan and said, Boss, long time no see. Before this, the Qing soldiers had experienced endless darkness and loneliness for years, until one moment they heard the call in the darkness and came to keep the appointment. Luolan's tears fell again. He smiled and wiped his tears. Fuck. Apart from such interjections, Luolan didn't know what else he should say. Ren Xiaosu watched silently for a long time. He didn't understand what kind of ability Luolan had. He could actually turn the dead into another form. Ren Xiaosu's mood suddenly became hot. If he had a perfect skill map in his hand now, he would probably copy Luolan's skill on the spot. However, it seems that the prerequisite for this ability is that the other party is willing to be summoned. These golden lights and shadows are like the heroic spirits guarding Luolan. After they chatted for a while, the golden lights and shadows of the 12 Qing soldiers entered Luolan's body one by one. Is this your awakened ability? Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. Yes, Luolan nodded and sighed. I have finally become a superhuman. No one else said much. There were outsiders like Li Ran and Zhou Tao next to them. It was not appropriate to say too much. It would be better to communicate privately when there is a chance in the future. But Luolan turned his head and looked at Zhou Tao, a reporter from Hope Media, and said, I will pay 10 million. Can you keep today's events secret? Zhou Tao shook his head. Sorry, what happened today is of great importance. I must record it. Ren Xiaosu was a little surprised that the other party was not moved by the millions of dollars. Isn't this reporter from Hope Media too tough? However, Luolan's concerns were necessary. On the one hand, Luolan didn't want others to know that he had awakened. Sometimes this trump card is very useful when it is kept at a critical moment. On the other hand, Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu revealed a lot of things in this battle, especially Zhou Yingsu absorbed the energy of the entire barrier creeper. If someone knows this, it may cause big problems. Luolan frowned at Zhou Tao and said, you can pretend that you are just taking refuge today and didn't see anything. As long as you do this, you can get 10 million. There is probably no more profitable business in the world than this, right? Zhou Tao said stubbornly, you can kill me to silence me, but you can't let me lie. Ren Xiaosu sighed. He didn't know how to evaluate the other party's spirit. Sometimes, this kind of principled intellectual is the most troublesome. Killing can't be killed. At this time, Luolan said, in fact, for you, what you want to record is what happened in the disaster today, that is, how the disaster ended. Yes, Zhou Tao nodded, this matter is very important to all mankind. So my ability has nothing to do with this matter. Can you not record it, and not tell it to others, and keep it secret for me? Luolan asked. Zhou Tao thought for a while and nodded, okay. Luolan pointed at Ren Xiaosu and Zhou Yingsu and said, they came to this terrible place to save us. How many people in this world do you think are willing to risk their lives for their friends? This is our savior, and then he saved you, but you turned around and sold him out, telling everyone what his abilities are. Is that appropriate? This time, Zhou Tao also began to feel conflicted. Luolan thought that to deal with such a principled person, he would have to use something to kidnap him. He said to Zhou Tao, I don't mind you recording this incident, and I don't mind you wanting the media to publish it, but I have a suggestion. Can you hide the identity of this savior in the report, and only report how someone saved the barrier? This shouldn't be a conflict, right? Zhou Tao looked at Ren Xiaosu and suddenly wanted to say something. You. What do you mean by you? Luolan interrupted, call me benefactor. Zhou Tao. Ren Xiaosu. Luolan knew that he had convinced Zhou Tao, and he said with a smile, I know you hope that the media will also have confidential files. A lot of information was not declassified until 50 years later. Can you put this matter in the confidential files? Zhou Tao finally sighed. I'll do as you say. Luo Lan was relieved to get Zhou Tao's reply. Zhou Tao had been following them all this time, so Luo Lan gradually understood what kind of person Zhou Tao was. When making an agreement with such a person, you don't need to judge him by your own standards. As long as the other party agrees, you will definitely do it. When the matter was over, Luo Lan exhaled a breath of turbid air and felt a little relieved. Suddenly, Zhou Qi's voice came from the side. I wonder when you, the fat man, are going to help me up. Zhou Qi was coughing up blood while talking, and everyone remembered that Zhou Qi was not dead yet. Chapter 615 Reunion. Luo Lan looked at Ren Xiaosu. Let's retreat? Wang's troops will surely arrive soon. We need to leave here quickly. But Ren Xiaosu shook his head. Now Wang's troops are probably outside the barrier. You will meet them anyway. If you sneak away, Wang may think you died in the barrier now, but if you show up again in the future, Wang will definitely wonder if this creeper has anything to do with you. That's right, Luo Lan was melancholy. He wanted to clear himself, but he didn't know how to do it for a while. Ren Xiaosu thought for a while and said, follow me. In order to prevent any clues from being left behind, Ren Xiaosu even used space to help Luo Lan take away the bodies of Qing's soldiers. These respectable people would be taken back and buried in the future. But Luo Lan was a little confused. Where was Ren Xiaosu taking them? As a result, Ren Xiaosu took them to destroy all the surveillance videos in the barrier, but after arriving at Wang's surveillance center, they found that the surveillance had been deleted. Luo Lan and Ren Xiaosu were stunned. Ren Xiaosu didn't quite understand this, so he confirmed with Luo Lan again, did they really delete everything? Yes, Luo Lan nodded and said, it might be broken. There was a power outage in the middle of the barrier, and then the backup circuit was connected to restore the power. Maybe there was a problem that time. Ren Xiaosu thought it was not that simple, but he didn't understand anything about this, and it was his first time seeing a computer, so he could only believe Luo Lan's statement. They found the largest bank nearby, found the key to the vault from the bank president on the ground, and then took everyone to hide in the vault, while the media reporter Zhou Tao stayed outside. Everyone's serial confession was that Luo Lan left Zhou Tao behind when he escaped, but the mysterious extraordinary person saved Zhou Tao and ended the short life of the creeper. Then, the mysterious extraordinary person left here, and Zhou Tao was left alone at the battle scene. Now, the only hidden danger is that Ren Xiaosu doesn't know whether the so-called artificial intelligence of Wang's barrier will still retain any video data after the surveillance is destroyed. This area had long been covered with creepers, so when the residents of Wall 61 began to flee, no one could enter this area, so the bank's vault was not occupied. After they entered the vault, they waited with peace of mind. Ren Xiaosu and Luo Lan even played landlord in the vault. Zhou Yingsu remained unconscious, and Ren Xiaosu was a little worried. He was worried that the maid would burn her brain because of the huge amount of energy she absorbed. There is no gain without a price. You need time and energy to work and make money, and you also need time and energy to gain knowledge. There is no such thing as a free lunch. Therefore, Zhou Yingsu's gain this time was too great, which made Ren Xiaosu a little worried. After Ren Xiaosu and his friends hid in the vault, they waited for 2 hours before they heard the messy footsteps coming from outside. Someone shouted outside the vault, "Is there anyone inside? We are Wang's rescue team." Ren Xiaosu immediately put away the playing cards, and Luo Lan opened the vault door with a crying voice, "You are finally here. I missed you so much, why did you come now?" At this time, Zhou Tao also followed the rescue team. When Luo Lan saw the rescue team, he looked like he had seen his relatives, which made Zhou Tao's scalp numb. Because Luo Lan was also like this when he denied that Qing had nuclear weapons before. Zhou Tao also thought about it before, whether Qing really did not have nuclear weapons. Otherwise, Luo Lan's tears were too realistic. And now, Zhou Tao could only laugh. After Wang's troops entered the barrier, they immediately searched for all survivors. In the end, they found that there were only survivors in the vault and a few closed environments in the city, such as water towers on high-rise buildings, some people's cellars, and some people hiding in wells. But how many people can be hidden in these places? This disaster brought a devastating disaster to the residents of Barrier Number 61. Luo Lan introduced himself to the Wang's troops. The first thing he did was to confirm that he was waiting for rescue. As for the rest, it had nothing to do with him. The soldier in charge of arranging Luolan and his men asked on the way, "Do you know how this creeper withered?" Luolan looked panicked. "Didn't you Wangs kill it? We have been hiding in the vault and have no idea what happened outside." At this time, the soldier looked at Luolan and Ren Xiaosu, and suddenly questioned Ren Xiaosu's identity. "Hey, are you together? The information I got here said that you have some soldiers from the Queen's side. Why can't I see them?" Luolan glanced at Ren Xiaosu. They had reported their entourage to the Wangs before, and the Wangs even filed photos of everyone, so he couldn't admit that Ren Xiaosu was with them, otherwise this clue might arouse Wang's suspicion. Luolan said sadly, "My comrades have died to save me. These people are not with us. He should be a resident of the fortress." "Oh," the soldier nodded, and he said to Ren Xiaosu, "What is your resident ID number? I need to verify it." Under normal circumstances, who would verify the identity of refugees first? Isn't it miserable enough? Ren Xiaosu knew that the other party must be suspicious. After all, Luolan was the focus of attention. When Ren Xiaosu was thinking about countermeasures, he suddenly heard an expectant shout behind him, "Boss!" Ren Xiaosu turned around suddenly. On this long street full of dead branches, he looked at Wang Fuge, Jiang Wu, Wang Yuqi, Li Qingxiang and others, and suddenly felt that all the disasters he had experienced before disappeared. All the unhappiness disappeared in this moment. Wang Fuge trotted to Ren Xiaosu and walked around him. He was not injured and not thin, but it was a bit strange to hold a girl. Wang Fuge didn't know whether it was appropriate to call Ren Xiaosu by his name, so he simply called him boss. After all, in his eyes, he was now Ren Xiaosu's shopkeeper. No matter how much money he made from the business, it was all for Ren Xiaosu. At this time, Jiang Wu behind Wang Fuge also wanted to rush up, but he stopped just after running. Wang Linlin, the chief of the Wang family rescue team, smiled and said, "Brother, I didn't expect that the person you were looking for really survived. Congratulations, but I heard you call him boss just now. Why is that?" Wang Fuge smiled and explained, "Don't look at the large amount of goods I brought from the northwest. In fact, I am just a shopkeeper. This is our boss." Wang Linlin looked at Ren Xiaosu in surprise. "So this boy is the real boss? Then I am afraid that I will have to deal with this boy in the future. Everyone likes to deal with rich people, right?" Although Wang Linlin had an army, he also needed money. Therefore, Wang Linlin's attitude towards Ren Xiaosu was also very gentle. The soldiers who were going to check Ren Xiaosu's ID card saw that their superiors had come and seemed to have a close relationship with him, so they immediately gave up the check and continued to search for other survivors. Wang Linlin smiled at Wang Fuge and said, "You can rest here for a while. I have more important search and rescue tasks here. Please do your work." Wang Fuge smiled and said, "We have received a bus here, and we have to go back to barrier number 62 to count the goods. There will be many opportunities for communication in the future, so we won't delay your business." Wang Linlin smiled and said a few more polite words before leaving. Ren Xiaosu also said goodbye to Luolan. Although Ren Xiaosu really wanted to tie Luolan to his side to replicate his skills, it was indeed not suitable for him to have too many interactions with Luolan now. Luolan could not leave Wang's yet, and had to wait here for the dust to settle before he could put on a clear conscience. Ren Xiaosu said no more. He had too many things to say to Lao Wang and the others, and too many questions to ask. He looked back at the barrier, and a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Who deleted all the surveillance? Chapter 616 Reminiscing. A catastrophe ended with the arrival of Wang's troops. The living people could only rejoice, and the dead people would soon be forgotten. The whole fortress was full of withered creeper vines. The decaying gray branches and dead leaves on the ground made fortress number 61 look particularly desolate, like a new ruin. Ren Xiaosu felt that it would take a lot of time just to clean up the dead branches, but for the Wang's consortium, the biggest loss was not the facilities in the fortress, but the population. These days, the consortiums are very clear that people have productivity. When the creepers invaded the entire fortress, they did not damage any facilities. The entire fortress even kept the power supply unobstructed, and the communication was not cut off. It was just that no one maintained the intermediate power system, and it had some problems, but the backup power was immediately replaced. In this case, the barrier did not suffer any major losses in terms of hardware. However, Hundreds of thousands of people died in Fortress Number 61. These people supported the light industry, service industry, and commerce in the barrier, and now they are all gone. Without heavy industry, there is no core competitiveness. Without light industry, life will be uncomfortable and business will decline. Ren Xiaosu led Wang Fuge and others to leave the barrier as soon as possible, and first took everyone back to their own residence to settle the unconscious Zhou Yingsu. Wang Fuge looked around the small courtyard and said, "Xiaosu, have you lived here all the time?" Ren Xiaosu thought for a moment and said, "Not really. I've been to many places, including Luocheng, barrier number 73, barrier number 74, barrier number 63, barrier number 62. Wang Fuge wondered why these barriers sounded so familiar, as if he had seen negative news about these barriers in the newspapers, such as the fall of East Lake at number 73, the destruction of number 74 by a nuclear bomb, and the battle between Anjing Temple at number 63 and the Spark Company. Xiaosu, except for Luocheng, all the places you mentioned seem to be quite dangerous? Wang Fuge asked with concern. Did anything happen to you? Ren Xiaosu comforted him. Don't worry, it was others who got into trouble. Wang Fuge. Jiang Wu. Although he said it lightly, Wang Fuge always felt that Ren Xiaosu must have gone through a lot of dangers. He asked, Xiaosu, how did you survive back then? Tell us about it. Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, I was pierced in the abdomen by a spear, but was saved by a big shot of the Wang family. They went to the northwest for the current trade route. At that time, they told me that the spear happened to pierce my appendix, but other internal organs were not injured. Appendix. Wang Fuge and the others were stunned. How could such a thing happen? In fact, Ren Xiaosu later thought more about something. Maybe the piercing of the appendix was also the result of Yan Liuyan's wish? But if this was really the result of Yan Liuyan's wish, what kind of backlash did Liuyan suffer? He looked at Wang Fuge. By the way, where's Liuyan? Ren Xiaosu's eyes swept across everyone, but when he looked at everyone, he did not see the figures of Yan Liuyan and Sister Xiaoyu. Old Wang, where are Liuyan and Sister Xiaoyu? Wang Fuge was silent, and Wang Yuqi and others also turned their heads away. Ren Xiaosu asked again, Old Wang, answer me, where's Liuyan, where is Sister Xiaoyu? It's like this, Jiang Wu explained, when the flood came, we were not with Yan Liuyan and Sister Xiaoyu. I only had time to use plum branches to hold these people. The water was very turbulent, and we were washed away in a blink of an eye. We were unable to save the two of them. While speaking, Jiang Wu still felt a little guilty, but Ren Xiaosu was silent for a long time and said, Teacher Jiang Wu, you have done a good job, there is no need to feel guilty. To be honest, Ren Xiaosu was already feeling lucky that so many people survived. He adjusted his mood and said with a smile, I believe they must still be alive, but I don't know where they are. I published a newspaper in Hope Media. If Li Yuan sees it, he will definitely come to barrier number 61. Wang Fuge hurriedly smiled and said, Yes, Li Yuan is very excited. He will definitely survive. I vaguely saw that they seemed to be on the shore and were not threatened by the flood, but I didn't see it clearly and couldn't be sure. What about Yang Xiaojun? Ren Xiaosu asked. I know she must be fine at the time, because she was far away from the flood. Did you see her again later? Old Wang said in embarrassment, we haven't seen the girl surnamed Yang either, but since she is fine, you will meet her sooner or later. At this time, Ren Xiaosu didn't know that after he got into trouble, Yang Xiaojun went to look for him downstream like crazy, but found that the hope of finding him was too slim, so she went to hunt down her enemy, that is, the extraordinary person of the Zhuang family who pierced Ren Xiaosu's abdomen with a spear. He chased the other party to the foot of Guanshan Mountain, and shot him dead after he had experienced despair. By the way, Ren Xiaosu changed the subject and asked, how have you been these days? I see that you, Old Wang, are very familiar with Officer Wang. At this time, there was a knock on the door outside. Ren Xiaosu frowned. Who would knock on his door at this time? He opened the door and saw that it was the big liar who came to visit. This guy didn't bother to be polite with Ren Xiaosu and went straight into the house. When he saw Wang Fuge, he said happily, You must be Wang Fuge. I just restored contact with Fortress 178 and learned that you are still alive. Congratulations. Ren Xiaosu raised his eyebrows. Big liar, what's the matter with you? I just came to see. Can't I come if there is nothing else? The big liar sat on the chair and made up his mind to stay in the house. Ren Xiaosu had no choice but to introduce Wang Fuge. This is an intelligence officer from Fortress 178. He used to be in charge of intelligence work in the Zhuang clan area. After the Zhuang clan was destroyed, he came to the Central Plains. Xiaosu, Wang Fuge suddenly remembered something after hearing this. I heard from Zhang Xiaoman that you participated in that war and avenged everyone with your own hands? It must be very dangerous, right? Not dangerous, Ren Xiaosu smiled. For him, he would only report good news and not bad news. The matter had already passed, so why should he make old Wang and the others worry? By the way, Ren Xiaosu also gave the big liar a warning look, asking him not to talk nonsense. But the big liar ignored all this. He interrupted and said, "You may not know, but that battle was so shocking that it shocked the world and made the gods cry. The vast majority of our soldiers in Fortress 178 were convinced by Ren Xiaosu." Qin Sheng, who was eavesdropping next door, had his eyes shining. These people finally mentioned what he wanted to hear the most. Before, the relationship between Ren Xiaosu and Fortress 178 was like a mystery that confused the young knight. Now it seemed that it was finally time to confirm it. Chapter 617. Are you that kind of person? Qin Sheng thought, so many people, they won't act together again, right? When Lao Wen came to the number 61 barrier with the army, he was watching in the market town. Qin Sheng also roughly guessed from listening that Wang Fuge should have just returned from number 178, and brought countless goods. These goods can't be fake. For a lie, the cost of this lie is too high to match so many goods. At this time, the big liar asked Ren Xiaosu, I heard that you went into the barrier to save people before? Do you know how this creeper died? Reveal it. Ren Xiaosu said calmly, I don't know. As soon as I went in, Zhou Yingsu was pinched in the head by the tentacles of the creeper, and then she passed out. After that, I quickly took her to hide. When Ren Xiaosu said that he didn't know what happened in the barrier, the big liar cursed in his heart, I really believe you, with your temper. You didn't pull out the creeper by the roots, how can you ignore it? The big liar complained, still hiding? Do you think you are that kind of person? Ren Xiaosu turned to look at Wang Fuge, ignore him, old Wang, continue talking about your things. Old Wang sighed, after we were washed away by the flood, teacher Jiang Wu found an opportunity to bring us ashore halfway. Later, we lived with the refugees in the mountains for a while, but we couldn't stand that kind of isolated life. Later, I thought about doing some business with the money and medicine you left behind, so that I wouldn't be empty-handed when I see you in the future. Old Wang continued, on my side, I went to Wang's barrier to buy some goods that were not available in the northwest and took them to the northwest. As a result, I met Zhang Xiaoman on the first day. Originally, when I heard that you were still alive, I immediately wanted to return to Central Plains, but he said he had a way to find you. Ren Xiaosu was stunned for a moment, what method? Old Wang glanced at Ren Xiaosu, hesitated and said, he said that wherever there is a problem with a barrier, he will send people to find you there, but they sent people to barrier number 74, and it seems that they didn't find you. Zhang Xiaoman said that this was the trick Su Xianchu gave him. The big liar said at the side, I was the one Wang Fengguan sent to barrier number 74. Su Xianchu's guess was correct. I found out that he was at barrier number 74 at the time. And you see, barrier number 61 has become like this. Ren Xiaosu is speechless. What kind of words were these? He interrupted the big liar, don't say anything first. The big liar really didn't say anything. Wang Fuge sighed, later, I couldn't wait for your news, so I led the team back to the Central Plains and brought a lot of goods. This business is thanks to Zhang Xiaoman, but he was good at making decisions and approved several million goods for us. Will this have any impact on him? The big liar was happy, no, don't worry, Zhang Xiaoman did the right thing. Old Wang, do you know who the young man in front of you is? What's going on? Wang Fuge was stunned by these words. How could he not know who Ren Xiaosu was? But the big liar said mysteriously, this is the young commander of our 178 fortress. Do you know what a young commander is? When Commander Zhang retires in the future, he will be the commander of the 178 fortress. What's wrong with the future commander's business, buying some goods on credit? Right. Wang Fuge and the others were stunned. Although they had been in the northwest for a while, no one would tell them such things. Are you serious? Wang Fuge asked the big liar, the future commander of the 178 fortress. How can this be false? The big liar said, do you think anyone can report a name and buy millions on credit from my 178 fortress? At this moment, Wang Fuge finally understood why everyone in the Northwest was so enthusiastic about him, and why Zhang Xiaoman was so enthusiastic and generous. When the goods were shipped out of the warehouse, even the officers in charge of the warehouse were particularly enthusiastic about him, calling him Brother Wang, and asked him to come to the Northwest often to expand and strengthen the business and create glory again. Before, he thought to himself, is Zhang Xiaoman so powerful? Now he realized that Ren Xiaosu's identity has changed. Old Wang looked at Ren Xiaosu blankly. No wonder Zhang Jinglin has lived in the market town for so many years. You are his. Ren Xiaosu's face darkened instantly. What is this? I have no blood relationship with him. This is purely a big liar who is fooling you. Don't take it seriously. But the big liar didn't care about that. He just wanted to make this matter a certainty. If he could influence Ren Xiaosu through Wang Fuge and other people who are very close to Ren Xiaosu in the future, it would be even better. Qin Sheng, who was eavesdropping next door, finally confirmed that Ren Xiaosu was really the young marshal of the 178 fortress. Everyone forced him to be the marshal, but he didn't want to be the marshal. What should he do now? He picked up the satellite phone next to him and called his teacher, Old Li. He got straight to the point on the phone. Teacher, Ren Xiaosu's identity has been confirmed. His identity is not as simple as we thought. What do you mean? Old Li didn't understand. Qin Sheng explained, he is definitely not a lone transcendent, unlike those lone rangers. Yes, I know he has a maid, Lao Li said anxiously. Can you stop talking and take a breath before you finish talking? Qin Sheng said helplessly, he is the heir of Fortress 178. It seems that the entire Fortress 178 has tacitly agreed to this matter, but he himself does not want to go back to the Northwest. So you have to be mentally prepared, teacher. Even if he is really the person we are looking for, he may not buy it. Lao Li was thinking before, what if Ren Xiaosu is the person they are looking for, but Zhang Qingxi and others look down on Ren Xiaosu. But now the situation has suddenly changed. They should worry about what if Ren Xiaosu looks down on them. Old Li said woodenly, are you sure? Yes, and I don't think there's any need for them to put on a show for us, Qin Sheng said, but I think this is a good thing, teacher. I've been in contact with Ren Xiaosu a lot recently, and his martial arts skills are likely to exceed our imagination. We used to think he was not as strong as us, or all the knights thought that most of the natural awakening extraordinary people in the world were not as good as us, except for a few very few. But this Ren Xiaosu is likely to be one of the very few. You should have heard about the creeper teacher at the number 61 barrier. He got out of it unscathed, and I suspect that the creeper's withering now is closely related to him. Old Li sighed, okay, I know, this needs to be told to the other knights. At this time, Ren Xiaosu turned to look at Jiang Wu on the side. In the past few months, teacher Jiang Wu's temperament has become more restrained. When everyone was talking, she would listen quietly with a smile, not interrupting, but often keeping her eyes on Ren Xiaosu. When Ren Xiaosu looked at her, she turned her eyes away. Chapter 618 Growth. Ren Xiaosu looked at Wang Yuqi and the others again. He had to admit that Wang Yuqi had made them much more mature than they were a few months ago. Just from their faces, they were darker, stronger, and more confident when they smiled. They were less frail than before. You know, these kids used to be students who only knew how to study, and were focused on preparing for the college entrance exam. Even Wang Dalin, who was ignorant before, has become much more stable. Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, you seem to have changed a lot. The old Wang next to him smiled and said, of course not. We encountered bandits at the beginning. Thanks to teacher Jiang Wu and Wang Yuqi and the others, and thanks to you leaving them some nanorbits, we beat those bandits and made them scream. That's why I dared to take the goods to the Northwest. Okay, Ren Xiaosu patted Wang Yuqi on the shoulder and said with a smile, you can beat bandits now. What is the delay of the nanorbits now? Wang Yuqi smiled and said, I can no longer feel any delay. This delay is within the acceptable range of my nerve reaction. There are still 2 classmates who can feel the delay, but we think that they can soon increase the synchronization rate to a negligible level. Ren Xiaosu nodded. It seems that it is just as he guessed. The reason why Li dared to let those refugees with high synchronization rates go to die is because the synchronization rate can be improved through acquired training. Of course, this also shows a problem. At the beginning, those refugees who became nano-warriors were indeed used by Li as cannon fodder. They were just experimental subjects. Ren Xiaosu asked with a smile, "Were you afraid when fighting the bandits?" "I was afraid," a male classmate said with a smile, "but then I thought about it. This is what you did for us before. If you are not afraid, we can't be afraid either, and we have to protect everyone." Ren Xiaosu glanced at him, then looked at a female classmate next to him who was always looking at him and said happily, "Protect everyone? Or protect someone?" A group of people laughed. It seems that the relationship between this couple is no longer a secret. This is normal. As the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed. These boys and girls have experienced so many difficulties and despair together, so they will naturally fall in love with each other over time. At this time, Ren Xiaosu asked again, "Are you still reading books?" "Yes," Wang Yuqi replied. "Before in the mountains, it's not that everyone couldn't live a hard life without fighting with the world. It was Uncle Fugi who said that it would be a pity if we students had no books to read in the future. That's why he took us away from the mountains to make more money and see if there are any universities in the northwest where we can continue our studies." Ren Xiaosu suddenly realized that Lao Wang still had this thought in mind, and he felt that Lao Wang was right in this regard. While Ren Xiaosu was chatting with the students, the big liar was pulling Lao Wang to read his palm. He said to Lao Wang, "How old are you this year?" Wang Fuga smiled and replied, 46. "Then you're younger than me, I'm 52. Let's be closer and I'll call you my brother, how about that?" The big liar said with a smile, holding Wang Fuga's hand. Wang Fuga did not refuse. The big liar continued, "I see from your palm that you have a face of having a child in middle age. You should be 32 years old when you have your own son. Am I right?" Wang Fuga was shocked. "How did you know?" "Haha." The big liar pointed to the white banner with the word Divine Fortune Teller written on it. "I'm a fortune teller. Of course I know. All these things are written on your palm." "Oh, so you are a master." "My apologies." Wang Fuga was a little confused, "But aren't you an intelligence worker?" "Ahem, intelligence work is just a side job," the big liar explained. "Fortune telling is my main job." "Then brother, can you show me what my future will be like?" Wang Fuga asked. When the big liar accurately said the age of his son, he believed it a little. At this moment, the big liar stroked his beard and smiled. "Your future life is not very good. This Central Plains is a very dangerous place for you. If you want to be prominent in front of people, you have to go north. But the north is not your best choice. You have to go to the northwest, to make the northwest prosperous." Wang Fuga thought, "Isn't it the northwest that is prosperous? Ren Xiaosu has become the young marshal of the northwest, how can he not be rich?" The big liar continued, "The word Wang also has a particular meaning in Feng Shui. Wang is too mediocre. It originally means the demeanor of a king, but there are too many people with this surname, which weakens its momentum. But you have to add a little bit to become the word you, so that it can match the two words of wealth in your name, otherwise your surname can't suppress your name at all. Do you know where there is a lot of jade? There is a lot of jade in the northwest." At this point, the big liar had already started to talk nonsense. Anyway, the core idea was to let Wang Fuga go to the northwest. Wang Fuga and his family went to the northwest, and Ren Xiaosu could still stay in the Central Plains alone? Impossible. Since Ren Xiaosu couldn't be convinced, then Wang Fuga could be convinced. Next, when Wang Fuga goes to the northwest, a large amount of goods have been prepared there, waiting to tie Wang Fuga to this line. He doesn't need to pay for the goods, just sell them at the cost price. To be honest, the 178 fortress is absolutely rich in minerals, and it doesn't need this little thing at all. Gradually, the two of them talked about fortune-telling anecdotes. The big liar boasted, "When I was young, I relied on this fortune-telling skill to be liked by countless girls." What a unique skill. Wang Fuga laughed and said, "Then you must be very lucky. You must have been a playboy when you were young, right?" "No," the big liar shook his head and said, "We are not allowed to have feelings with customers in our industry." Ren Xiaosu, who had been listening for a long time, sneered, "Why, are you in the funeral industry?" The big liar. Ren Xiaosu said to Wang Fuga, "Don't listen to his nonsense. What intelligence work is a side job. He relies on his work in the intelligence industry to know how old Wang Daling is. No, you can find out by asking Zhang Jinglin. Then he asked your age because he wanted to subtract Wang Fuga's age from your age, so he would know when you had Wang Daling. Wang Fuga suddenly realized, and the big liar next to him said angrily, young Marshal can't just destroy people's jobs. Okay, Ren Xiaosu said with a smile, I know why you tricked him. You just want me to go back to the northwest, but I still say that I am actually very grateful that you think highly of me. If you really think I am suitable, or if one day I am mentally prepared, I will go back, but definitely not now. The big trickster immediately smiled and said, just your words will do. I would like to recommend Heng Xiaoxian's new book The Picture of Creation. The introduction is very interesting. If you are interested, you can go and support it. Chapter 619 Wang's Strategy. Zhou Yingsu is still not awake, and most of the time, she would be hot and cold. It wasn't that Ren Xiaosu had gotten close to feel it, but when Zhou Yingsu's body got hot, the whole room was like a heated kang, especially warm. With this temperature, Ren Xiaosu was really worried that she would burn her brain. He settled Wang Fuga and others in the house that Zhou Yingsu had just bought. Anyway, Zhou Yingsu bought a lot of houses, and it would be a waste not to live there. Ren Xiaosu felt that Zhou Yingsu's dream as a real estate developer should have been shattered when the creeper broke out. After settling Lao Wang and others, Ren Xiaosu went back to continue guarding Zhou Yingsu, fearing that something unexpected would happen. If this maid could successfully master the energy of the entire barrier sacrificed by the creeper, then I'm afraid Zhou Yingsu would become a great help in the future, right? However, this wait lasted for 3 days, and 3 days passed, and Ren Xiaosu still didn't see any signs of Zhou Yingsu's recovery. But Ren Xiaosu was not in a hurry. After 3 days, Zhou Yingsu still had a ruddy complexion and didn't look weak at all. He would stay in the town of Barrier number 61 for a while. According to what Lao Wang and the others said, although Yan Liwen and sister Xiaoi were missing, Ren Xiaosu thought that Yan Liwen himself had the ability to be lucky in calamity. If there was no fatal injury, the flood should not be able to take his life. So he had to wait at Barrier number 61. As long as Yan Liwen saw the sentence in the Hope Media newspaper, he would definitely come to Barrier number 61 to find him. As for Yang Xiaojin, he could only wait for Yan Liwen to reunite with him before thinking of a way. After all, Yang Xiaojin didn't spend much time with Yan Liwen and sister Xiaoyu, so she probably hadn't heard his sentence. Ren Xiaosu knew that it was the person destined for him, and as long as he was alive, he would always meet. However, what surprised Ren Xiaosu was Wang's reaction to the disaster at Barrier number 61. The losses brought to Wang by this disaster were incalculable, but Wang suddenly said in an interview with Hope Media, Barrier number 61 had survived the crisis and was now recruiting new residents. People from the entire Barrier Alliance could come here to live and settle down. It can be summed up in one sentence, but this news took up a whole page of the Hope Media newspaper that day, the front page. The news did not say what kind of talents Wang required to settle down, there was no threshold, and even said that they would provide a resettlement fee and arrange jobs according to the abilities of the comers. When Ren Xiaosu saw this news, he was stunned, and then immediately thought of Wang's previous operation to disgust Zhou, deliberately raising the price of silk, so that many refugees went into the mountains to raise silkworms, which made Zhou's factory lose many refugees and affected production. And now? Who will be most moved by this news? Is it the residents of the Zhou and Kong barriers? No. On the one hand, the residents of the Zhou and Kong barriers cannot enter and exit the barriers freely, and on the other hand, everyone lives a good life in their own barriers, and their relatives and friends are all in this barrier. Who would leave the familiar place? However, this news is different in the eyes of refugees. Ren Xiaosu knows how much those people want to become residents of the barrier. Wasn't he one of them before? Now, the opportunity to become a resident of the barrier is right in front of them, within their grasp. Even if there was a disaster with creepers here, the creepers are dead, right? The threat of death is no longer a threat. A barrier needs to accommodate hundreds of thousands of people. How many refugees outside the barriers can fill such a barrier? Moreover, Wang's company specially announced this matter in the newspaper with the largest traffic, Hope Media. It only takes a few days to see the results. For a time, the factory next to Zhou's barrier actually had the refugees of the entire factory fleeing north collectively, and Kong's was no exception. Within a short week, Many factories of Zhou and Kong were directly paralyzed, and even vegetables and processed foods in the barriers were in short supply. Even the butchers who slaughtered pigs rushed to Wang's barrier with their families. Everyone was afraid that if they went too late, the opportunity would be taken away by others. Ren Xiaosu watched silently in the market town. In just 1 week, nearly 20,000 people came to barrier number 61 and became residents of the barrier after being investigated. What made Ren Xiaosu speechless was that all the waiters in the taverns in the market town had entered the barrier. Now there were no waiters in the taverns, and they had to go to the kitchen to get the mutton soup buns. Fortunately, the cooks did not leave, otherwise they, who had settled in the taverns, would have to cook for themselves. In addition, there were people from Wang's barrier who found Ren Xiaosu and his friends. They thought that Ren Xiaosu, Dahu Ayao and others were local refugees, so they asked with a smile if they wanted to live in the barrier. Ren Xiaosu politely refused, saying that he grew up here and would not adapt to the barrier. He did not want to go in, so everyone around him refused, and everyone did not think it was a pity. After all, they were different from the real refugees now, and they did not think that life in the barrier would be good. However, Ren Xiaosu did not want to go in, and the refugees in other market towns had all left. This time, Ren Xiaosu bought the remaining 10 brick and stone courtyards in the entire market town. Those gentry were in a hurry to move into the barrier, so the courtyards in the market town were naturally useless, and they had to move into the barrier as soon as possible, otherwise they would not be able to grab a place, so the courtyards became urgently sold. When Zhou Yingxu bought a courtyard, the average price of one courtyard was 30,000 yuan, and when Ren Xiaosu bought it, it became 5,000. During the transaction, Wang Fuge asked in confusion, "Xiaosu, this barrier has just experienced a disaster. Why did you buy so many courtyards? No one lives here." "Someone will live here," Ren Xiaosu said with a smile. "There will be countless people coming here, old Wang and we are all refugees. Don't underestimate the refugees' enthusiasm for the barrier. 99% of the people in this world will not give up the opportunity to jump to higher class. Becoming a barrier person will mean that you can make money more easily and live more easily." Wang Fuge asked again, "Why don't you use my money? Wang's has already paid me for this batch of goods. This is the first time for me to make more than 1 million from a single business." "No need," Ren Xiaosu smiled and shook his head. "I have money here. By the way, please write down this account number. This is my account number. It will be used as capital for your business. The business has to continue. After all, we still have such a big family to support. In the future, Wang Yuqi and others will continue their further studies, and they will inevitably spend money." Wang Fuge wrote down the account number. He was curious and asked, "Xiaosu, how much money is there in it? Is it enough for you to spend?" Old Wang thought that since his business made money, the money belonged to Ren Xiaosu, and he must not let Ren Xiaosu live a hard life. As a result, Ren Xiaosu pondered and recalled, there should be more than 10 million. Chapter 620, Joanne Kong's Headaches. Wang Fuge almost vomited blood. How come the money he earned with the great effort was not even a fraction of Ren Xiaosu's? However, Ren Xiaosu felt that the business on the northwest trade route had to continue. After Wang and his friends had rested for a while, they could set off again. As for Wang Yuqi and others continuing their studies, Ren Xiaosu thought that none of the Wang, Zhou, or Kong barriers were suitable. The most suitable one was King University in Luocheng. After the Wang family made a move this time, Zhou and Kong families, even the Spark Company and other small financial groups were affected. Only the refugees outside Luocheng were the least affected. The refugees in Luocheng were not even very interested in the so-called barrier identity. Sending Wang Yuqi and the others to King University had to be done by Qin Sheng. He asked Qin Sheng, "Is King University's enrollment really open to everyone?" Of course, Qin Sheng nodded and said, "Why, Wang Yuqi and the others want to go to college? But I can't make the decision on this matter. I can ask the teacher to arrange a visa for them, but they have to take an exam to enter King University. The spring enrollment will start soon. They didn't attend the cram school outside the market town, so it might be difficult for them to pass the exam." Ren Xiaosu looked at Wang Yuqi and the others. "Time is tight, do you think you can handle it?" But Wang Yuqi smiled confidently, "We have never fallen behind in our studies, and we don't need to attend any cram school. It's just that Brother Xiaosu, we want to stay and help and don't want to go to college. Even if we don't go to college, we can study on our own. And Uncle Fugue also needs help, otherwise he can't deal with the bandits alone. Ren Xiaosu smiled and persuaded, since you have the conditions, go and continue your studies. Don't worry about the bandits. Just ask Zhang Xiaoman to send some people to escort you. Systematic learning is better than crossing the river by feeling the stones. Ren Xiaosu has always been serious about learning. He himself has no chance to go to university for further studies, but good seedlings like Wang Yuqi cannot be wasted. The big liar on the side hurriedly laughed and said, "That's right, you can ask Zhang Xiaoman to send someone to escort you about the bandits. If those bandits are not on the Wang family's fortress, we can send troops to beat the bandits." In this way, Wang Fugue's caravan has the official troops of the 178th fortress to escort him. This makes him an official merchant. Who will be so blind as to provoke him in the future? With Wang Fugue's ability, it is very likely that he will integrate the entire northwest trade route. At this time, more and more refugees entered the number 61 fortress. Some small media newspapers began to follow up and report these things, such as interviewing these new fortress residents and asking how they felt. Did the Wang family make things difficult for everyone? As a result, these refugees unanimously said that Wang was really great. They didn't expect that these refugees could really become people of the barrier one day. Moreover, the work arranged by Wang was much easier than going down the mine before. They have decided to settle down here and spend the rest of their lives. Not only do they give jobs, but they also give money. It's like buying horse bones with a lot of gold. The 20,000 refugees who entered the barrier first were the horse bones bought by Wang with a lot of money. Zhou and Kong are also trying their best to keep the refugees in their territory, but what kind of treatment can be compared to becoming people of the barrier? They can't use troops to guard these refugees every day and treat everyone like prisoners, right? The conditions don't allow it. Wang's move instantly reversed the loss, and a bad thing turned into a good thing. Half a month later, the number 61 market town began to become lively. Ren Xiaosu thought that the population near the number 61 barrier might have exceeded the original number. Of course, even Wang's own factory was affected, but Wang had prepared early on. The first to arrive at barrier number 61 were actually the refugees on their own territory. At this time, Wang's own factory was also paralyzed, but Wang did not refuse these people to enter. Then, because of the rescue, a large number of troops and military vehicles gathered at barrier number 61. When the number of refugees in the barrier reached a certain number, barrier number 61 no longer accepted new refugees, but used military vehicles to transport new refugees to various factories. These later refugees were a little frustrated when they learned that they could not become people in the barrier. But Wang immediately promised them good treatment, not much better, just a little better than Zhou and Kong. So the refugees thought, since they are all here, it will take another 10 days or half a month to walk back, so isn't it the same to work for any consortium? And Wang's salary is high. As a result, the factories of Wang's consortium were the first to resume operation, while Zhou's and Kong's factories were still paralyzed. The two consortiums also wanted to improve the treatment of refugees, but the refugees had already fled. Even if they improved the treatment of refugees at this time, the refugees would not rush back from thousands of miles away. They couldn't go to Wang's territory to rob people. That would mean going to war. At this time, if they wanted to get these refugees back, I'm afraid the salary and treatment would have to be increased by 40% to 50% compared to before. Ren Xiaosu no longer paid attention to the subsequent operations between these consortiums, and he was not too interested in this. However, these things seemed to have been planned by Wang's long ago, which made Ren Xiaosu think about it terribly. Before, Luo Lan said that he would unite other forces to deal with Wang's, and he thought that Luo Lan and Qing Zhen might have worried too much, but now it seems that Wang's intentions are actually very clear, and Qing Zhen has thought ahead of everyone else. However, Ren Xiaosu originally thought that Wang's would start a war soon, but after this incident, Wang's family became quiet instead, and put all their energy back into trade routes and production, completely ignoring the outside world's discussions. During this period, Zhou Tao, a reporter from Hope Media, stayed in barrier number 61, and he followed and reported the situation after the refugees entered the barrier. At first, he thought the entire barrier would fall into chaos. After all, barrier number 61 was now full of refugees. These people did not understand civilized etiquette, and did not follow any rules. There should be a lot of thefts and robberies. But Wang's artificial intelligence also began to work at this time. Some people just robbed others and then turned a street and were taken away by Wang's newly appointed ordered department staff. Some people were handcuffed immediately after stealing things. Artificial intelligence is like an omniscient and omnipotent god, regulating everyone's behavior. Zhou Tao had no idea about this artificial intelligence before, until he experienced the transformation of barrier number 61 from chaos to order, and then he deeply understood the role of artificial intelligence in maintaining the stability of the barrier. He suddenly felt that this barrier number 61 was more like a pilot project of the Wang Group and also a display area. They used practical examples to tell the world how strong the barriers to AI governance were and how solid people's lives were. There is another chapter to be updated in the evening. Let's eat first. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 621, Grassland War. On the northern grassland, Yan Liwen was sitting calmly beside the fire in the tent. The firelight made his face red, and the light and shadow flickered. Hassan, the head of the tribe, was beside him, putting some mutton in the iron pot on the fire. The mutton had been cooked long ago, and now it was just put into the pot to heat it up again. He said to Yan Liwen respectfully, "Master, the people of that big tribe wanted to go to the Central Plains to plunder, and they wanted to establish their power. You let the eagle in the sky peck out the eyes of his messenger, and he will definitely not give up." Yan Liwen laughed. "Hassan, don't worry about this kind of thing. I'm worried that he doesn't dare to come." "I understand." Hassan said no more. After a while, he took out the mutton from the pot and took out his knife to cut it into slices. His master didn't like to eat too big pieces, so he had to cut it more carefully. If he was afraid of Yan Liwen at the beginning and surrendered, then now, he really worshipped Yan Liwen as a god. The grassland people have believed in gods since ancient times, and the various abilities displayed by Yan Liwen are like a real god. Even if he is not, it is almost the same. Hassan thought that the gods will bless the tribe. Some cattle and sheep were lost in the snowstorm before, but the owner said that the cattle and sheep would come back by themselves. As a result, a strong wind blew again in the afternoon, and the wind brought all the cattle and sheep back. All of this made Hassan awed and impressed from the bottom of his heart. Yan Liwen picked up a piece of mutton and put it in his mouth. After swallowing it with difficulty, he said to Hassan, "Are there no vegetables on the grassland?" When he was at the 88th fortress, Yan Liwen would often listen to Ren Xiaosu's stories with relish, which were all read by Ren Xiaosu in books. Ren Xiaosu told him that before the disaster, the north was not only herdsmen, but most of the residents also lived in cities. The diet was not much different from that of the southerners, and they also ate vegetables and fruits. However, most of them were planting or transported there. Now that the northern grasslands have lost the supplies from the central plains, you have to rely on luck if you want to eat some fruits, which are basically wild fruits on the grasslands. Hassan replied, "Master, it's mainly winter now, and it's not easy to find those things. When spring comes, I can take my people to find other food." "It seems that it is really necessary to go to the central plains," Yan Liwen sighed. "Master, are you from the central plains?" Hassan asked curiously. "Not really," Yan Liwen shook his head, "but the place where I lived before was similar to the central plains. People ate rice and wore cotton-padded clothes. There were not many people herding, but more farmland." "Then the master is going to build a magnificent wall on the grassland." Hassan stretched out his hand and gestured. "It's the kind that is particularly majestic. I've seen it from afar. They must not be afraid of wild beasts living in it, and they can even drive the wild beasts to our northern grasslands." Yan Liwen walked out of the tent and rubbed his cheeks with a handful of snow from outside. "Hassan, you can't build barriers in the north, and I don't like that thing." Hassan was puzzled. "Master, don't you like barriers?" "Of course not," Yan Liwen said. "Those central plains people hiding in the barriers have lost their sensitivity to the outside world. The whole world is changing, but they are standing still. Moreover, they have divided a race into different levels." Hassan understood that the master did not like barriers. Yan Liwen continued, "Moreover, If the nomadic people want to be the enemy of the Central Plains, they cannot live in one place. When the people of the Central Plains begin to pay attention to us and want to conquer the grassland, their artillery fire will easily destroy the barrier. The advantage of the nomadic people is the terrain of this grassland. When they come, they can only advance along the river and build their forward base, but we can go anywhere. Only when they go deep enough, we will have a chance to fight back. Hassan smiled naively and said, "The master knows a lot." "I was just talking nonsense," Yan Limwen smiled. "I just don't like people from the barrier." At this time, Sister Xiaoyu walked out of the tent wearing a fur robe like the herdsman. She was holding a bowl of goat milk in her hand. "Limwen, come and drink the goat milk. You can't always eat so little." But just after he finished speaking, the howling of wolves was heard in the grassland in the distance, and Yan Limwen laughed. "Finally here, let's go, Hassan, I'll take you to see a good show." As he said that, Hassan asked the tribesmen to bring the horses, half knelt on the ground, and used his thighs as a horse stool for Yan Limwen. A group of dozens of people walked towards the direction of the wolf howling. To this day, the tribesmen in the tribe still fear the wolves, but Yan Limwen has told them many times that the wolves will not harm their own people, nor will they eat livestock. Not far away, Hassan stared at the grassland in front of him, which seemed to be stained with blood. He recognized a man surrounded by the wolves. The other party was the right school king of the big tribe, who was good at fighting. It seemed that this was the army sent by the big tribe to encircle them, but the army of thousands of people was ambushed by the wolves on the grassland before they could see the shadow of Yan Limwen. These people thought that guns could scare off the wolves, but the wolves were much more fierce than they had seen. In just half an hour, the army of thousands of people was directly destroyed, leaving only the right school Wang Jirmu and his followers fighting in the wolf pack. But he was able to survive not because he was good at fighting, but because Yan Limwen had already told the Wolf King to keep the person in charge. When the Wolf King saw Yan Limwen coming, he stopped attacking and led the wolf pack to trap the enemy, letting them shout in anger. The right school Wang Jirmu panted violently. He looked at Yan Limwen across the wolf pack and said viciously, "Are you the new leader of this tribe?" Yan Limwen sat on a tall and strong horse and looked at him with interest. "Did your Khan receive the words I asked the envoy to bring back?" "What big talk you have, little kid," the right school Wang Jirmu sneered. "You want the whole grassland. You are not good enough yet." "It seems that this is the attitude of your Khan," Yan Limwen said nonchalantly. "Then I have to use more radical methods." As he said that, the wolf pack stopped besieging and pounced on all the remaining enemies to bite them to death, and then prepared to start eating their bodies. This scene was particularly bloody and brutal, like a tyrant punishing his enemies. But Sister Xiaoyu on the side suddenly looked at Yan Limwen. "Limwen, you can let the wolves kill them, but you can't let the wolves eat them. If your brother was here, he wouldn't let you do that." Yan Limwen sat on the horse in silence for a long time, then waved his hand to disperse the wolves. "Go to the grassland to find your food. These people can't be eaten." The Wolf King did not disobey, but left obediently. Chapter 622 Flowers. On this vast grassland, it is very common for nomadic tribes to fight against each other. Even if civilization was cut off by disasters, it is difficult to change the ethnic attributes of this land. The big tribes set up a royal court, enfeoffed the left and right wise kings, and then enfeoffed some small kings to complete the control of the grassland. However, this grassland is so large that real heroes are born from time to time and overthrow the original power fortress. Hassan felt that he was witnessing all this. When he heard the wolf howl, he was no longer afraid, but was a little excited. The power displayed by his master has surpassed the level of all other heroes on this grassland. It is the power of gods. After the wolves were dispersed by Yan Limwen, the remaining horses and cattle on the battlefield were dragged back to the tribe by Hassan and his men. The mutated horses are the main means of transportation on the grassland, and the cattle are the tools for pulling supplies. When the wolves attacked this group of people, they even deliberately avoided hurting the horses and cattle under Yan Limwen's instructions. This was also like a miracle in Hassan's eyes. After all, wolves eat meat. Who else can make wolves give up their prey except gods? On the way back, Yan Limwen remained silent until they were about to return to the tribe. Sister Xiaoyu suddenly said, "I shouldn't have contradicted your order in front of other people." Sister Xiaoyu looked a little sad. She followed Yan Limwen to the grassland and knew very well what Yan Limwen wanted to do. Unifying the grasslands was just the first step. She couldn't stop Yan Limwen from doing this, nor did she intend to stop him. and there was no reason to stop him. She just watched all this silently behind Yan Liuyan. Sister Xiaoyu knew very well that the boy next to her might not be her brother Liuyan anymore, but the head of a tribe. In the future, he would be the head of many tribes, and eventually he would set up his own royal court to control the entire grassland. Therefore, she might not be able to say anything to Yan Liuyan as she did before. It's just, she didn't want to watch this innocent boy fall into the abyss. However, after she finished speaking, Yan Liuyan suddenly smiled and said, "Sister Xiaoyu, thank you for being here." A strong wind blew again, blowing Yan Liuyan and Sister Xiaoyu's robes. Yan Liuyan continued in the wind, "In fact, sometimes I really hope that my brother is still here. If it were him, it would be easier to unify the grassland. But I know he doesn't have this idea. He has never been an ambitious person. He just wants to protect the people around him." Sister Xiaoyu listened quietly. "Whether my brother admits it or not, he is a good person in my heart. In fact, Sister Xiaoyu, you were right to stop me today. I was just thinking that if my brother was still alive, he would definitely hate this tyrannical me." Yan Liuyan sighed. "No," Sister Xiaoyu shook her head and said softly, "you are the most important person to Xiaosu. Even if you fall into the abyss, he will pull you out." Yet, Sister Xiaoyu is very important to Yan Liuyan. Only when Sister Xiaoyu is by his side can he continue to be sober. That day, Yan Liuyan stood on a grassy hill and looked south, from dusk to night, from night to dawn. Hassan came out of the tent several times, looking at his master's back from afar, always feeling that his master was a little lonely. In the morning, when Yan Liuyan returned to the tent, he suddenly saw a young girl kneeling in his tent. Yan Liuyan asked in confusion, "Are you Hassan's daughter?" The girl said with a hint of timidity, "My father asked me to serve you." Yan Liuyan smiled helplessly, "Go out, I have hands and feet, I don't need anyone to serve me. By the way, what's your name?" "Kikaj," the little girl replied timidly, "it means flower." "How old are you?" Yan Liuyan asked again. 13 years old, and I will be 14 in 3 months, Kikaj replied. Yan Liuyan nodded, "Okay, I remember everything, now go find your mother." But just when Yan Liuyan was about to lie down to rest, Kikaj ran out and brought in a basin of hot water and a piece of coarse cotton cloth. She soaked the cheesecloth in hot water and wanted to wipe Yan Liuyan's face. Yan Liuyan asked curiously, "Aren't you afraid of me? My father said you are the god who protects the tribe." "Don't be afraid," Kikaj said. Yan Liuyan was stunned for a moment, not because Hassan said he was a god, but because of the word protect. He slowed down his tone, "I am not a god, just an ordinary person, just like you." "But you can command wolves and eagles in the sky," Kikaj said, "and the girls in the tribe all say you are very beautiful." When she said the second half of the sentence, Kikaj's voice became smaller and smaller. Yan Liuyan is indeed different from the men here. He does not have rough skin exposed to ultraviolet rays for a long time, and his appearance is more delicate. So many girls in the tribe say that only gods can look so good. Sister Xiaoyu also told Yan Liuyan about this. Yan Liuyan thought, how long has it been since these people on the grasslands have seen people from the central plains? Seeing Yan Liuyan was slow to speak, Kikaj became anxious. "I can comb your hair, wash your clothes, and cook for you. My father asked me to live in your tent in the future, saying that I will be yours in the future. If you drive me out, I will be embarrassed." Yan Liuyan was stunned for a long time. "What kind of custom is this?" Exclamation mark. He laughed and said, "Then you can comb my hair, but you don't have to stay in my tent every day. In the morning, get some hot water and then go back to your mother. Don't you have to come over in the evening?" Kikaj asked in a low voice. To be honest, she was not ready. "No need to come," Yan Liuyan said with a smile. At this time, Kikaj sat behind Yan Liuyan and wiped his hair with a hot and wet towel, carefully and meticulously. After a moment of silence, she couldn't help but speak again. "You are not as dangerous as imagined. They said yesterday that you drove the wolf pack to kill many people, more enemies than the people in our tribe. But Sister Xiaoyu said that you are a very good person and told us not to be afraid of you." Before this, Kikaj lied. When Hassan asked her to come to Yan Liuyan's tent, she was indeed a little scared. But now she is really not afraid. Yan Liuyan did not respond to Kikaj, and Kikaj continued to chatter, "If I only come to comb your hair every morning, then I can go with others to do the work of collecting during the day." Yan Liuyan asked in confusion, "Collect? It means going out to collect some edible mushrooms, Kikage explained, otherwise, you can only drink milk or starve. Dad said that many cattle and sheep died in the blizzard. We can't eat them anymore. We have to wait until they give birth next year. Chapter 623, Searching for Salt. The cattle and sheep of nomadic peoples are just like the cultivated land in the Central Plains. They can never be eaten whenever they want. However, after Yan Liwen arrived, Hassan kept killing sheep for Yan Liwen to show respect, while the rest of the tribe could only eat meat from the young and strong laborers, and the meat was the livestock that died in the blizzard. Little girls like Kikage, even though she was Hassan's daughter, did not receive any preferential treatment. It was probably because of Hassan's fair character that he became the head of the tribe. Because Yan Liwen had the most honorable status when he arrived here, he had never experienced the hardships of nomadic peoples. He and Sister Xiaosu saw that these people had their own cattle, sheep and horses, and thought they were quite rich, but they didn't know that cattle and sheep could not be slaughtered at will. If such a large tribe only ate beef and mutton, they would probably have to kill several heads a day. Their tribe could not afford such a toss. When Yan Liwen heard this, he began to ask Kikage about the situation of the tribe in detail, and then he found that the tribesmen in the tribe not only could not eat meat often, but also rarely had salt. Salt is scarce on the grasslands. Nomadic people have always supplemented their salt intake from mutton, beef, goat milk and cow milk. The meat they usually eat is tasteless. Only the meat that Yan Liwen eats is salted. Now, because meat is not allowed to be eaten without salt supplements, many women and the elderly will experience dizziness, muscle cramps, and nausea. When this happens to the people in the tribe, due to lack of knowledge, they all think they may be sick, so everyone prays to the gods beside the fire pit, hoping that the gods can cure their illness. There is no salt or medicine here, and sheep are killed when they are really hungry. Yes, you are all poor people in this era. How could I think you are living well? Yan Liwen said with a bitter smile, this is my fault. Yan Liwen asked Kikage to call Hassan. Hassan glared at his daughter on the way, and then respectfully asked Yan Liwen, Master, don't listen to Kikage's nonsense. The tribe is not in such a difficult situation. Okay, listen to me, Yan Liwen said calmly, women and the elderly have nausea because they can no longer eat meat, so they can't replenish salt. We need salt. Hassan said in embarrassment, salt is very scarce. Only large tribes have it. We must pay tribute to cattle and sheep every year to get the precious salt. Yan Liwen suddenly realized that this was very much like one of the means by which the consortium controlled the refugees. Isn't Hassan's tribe like the refugees outside the barrier, controlled by others everywhere? But thinking of this, Yan Liwen became more interested. He wanted to lead these people to live a good life. Yan Liwen asked curiously, don't you have the ability to find salt yourself? This grassland is so big, you should be able to find some, although it's not much, but it's not completely gone. The salt ponds are controlled by the big tribes, and there are not many salt ponds on this grassland, Hassan explained. I heard that the big tribes don't have enough salt of their own. Yan Liwen carefully recalled some wilderness survival knowledge that Ren Xiaosu had told him. He didn't like to learn, but he always remembered what Ren Xiaosu had told him. Yan Liwen suddenly said to Hassan, gather all the herdsmen and ask them if they remember where the cattle licked when they were herding cattle in the past. He remembered that Ren Xiaosu had told him that all mammals must take in salt. Humans have long lost the instinct to survive in the wilderness, but humans rely on wisdom. If they can't find salt themselves, they let the animals find it for them. How do the animals on the grasslands replenish their salt? Some cattle farms in the Central Plains will put some coarse salt in the cow sheet for the cattle to lick. There are salt-stained lands on the grassland, and the cattle will find such places to replenish their salt. Sure enough, Hassan asked a few tribesmen and got the answer. After all, when they were herding cattle, there were only a few places that the cattle liked to lick. How could everyone not know? Yan Liwen immediately set off and took Hassan and others all the way to the grassland. Then things were simple. He took a group of people to dig up the snow and brought a lot of soil under the grass back to the tribe. Yan Liwen didn't know how to extract salt, but he knew that there must be salt in the soil. He could only use a stupid method, mixing water with the soil, and then filtering it again and again with cotton cloth until the water was clear, and then placing it in the fire pit for distillation. It was just a short while later, Hassan, who was standing by, saw a layer of light yellow-white crystals at the bottom of the pot. There were very few, Because the extraction process was not up to standard, so the appearance was also very poor. Hassan couldn't wait to rub a little with his fingers and put it in his mouth, and then looked at Yan Liwen in surprise. Master, it's really salt. No matter how it looks, this is salt. Yan Liwen breathed a sigh of relief. In the past, Ren Xiaosu would go to the wilderness to find the roots of walnut trees to boil water. The boiled water was salty. At that time, it was Ren Xiaosu's job to find food, but now it was his turn. He told Hassan, scrape these off, and then you go to the salty land, just like I did just now, understand? Okay, Hassan said excitedly. It was indeed a god. He could actually extract salt from barren soil. It was amazing. In fact, nomadic peoples had mastered similar abilities before the disaster, but later, when civilization developed to a certain level, there was no shortage of salt on the grassland. In the north, they could even eat salt from thousands of miles away. Before the disaster, the grassland people had already learned standardized education when they went to school. No teacher told them how to find salt on the grassland. So, when the disaster came, some people might still know that there was such a thing as the Tengwang Pavilion Preface, but they didn't know how to survive on the grassland. Slowly, the pressure of survival hung over everyone's head, and they even forgot the Tengwang Pavilion Preface. The rest was just instinct, and then some heroes emerged and began to integrate the forces on the grassland, wanting to use the Central Plains as the granary. It was just that there was a mistake in their cognition. When they went to the Central Plains, they found that they were the worst off after the disaster. The Central Plains had already built barriers and guns. The nomads on the grassland now don't even know what the South is like. Only Yan Liwen and Sister Xiaoyu know it best. Yan Liwen was sitting in the tent, and Sister Xiaoyu next to him kept smiling at him. He asked, Sister Xiaoyu, what are you laughing at? I'm laughing. You look like your brother now, Sister Xiaoyu said gently. He will definitely be proud of you. As a result, Sister Xiaoyu found that Yan Liwen suddenly became silent and looked depressed. Yan Liwen whispered, Sister, I miss my brother a little. Chapter 624 Throne. Yan Liwen underestimated Hassan's enthusiasm for making salt. For 3 consecutive days, Hassan led the tribesmen to run all over their grazing areas and dug all the places where cattle like to lick. The more you lack something, the more you desire it. Although there is salt in beef and mutton, the problem is that everyone who has eaten boiled beef and mutton knows that adding salt and not adding salt are completely two different foods. Moreover, Yan Liwen told him that the illnesses of women and the elderly in the tribe have always been caused by not eating salt, so Hassan is particularly concerned. Only with salt can you have strength. In just these 3 days, Hassan led the tribesmen in the ice and snow to dig out a bowl of salt. Under Yan Liwen's instructions, he killed another sheep and put some salt in the mutton when cooking it. Just drinking the soup made him feel happy. Although he felt a little distressed when killing the sheep, seeing the tribesmen's cheerful look, Hassan's wrinkled face also smiled like a flower. However, on the afternoon of the day when the sheep were slaughtered, another envoy with a seal arrived from the distant grassland. Yan Liwen stood at the gate of the tribe early in the morning, quietly watching the other party coming. The wolves had discovered the other party 3 hours ago, but did not attack. The envoy with a seal rode a strong horse with a long sword on his waist. Hassan said on the side, Master, his sword is only worn by the warriors of the big tribe who have fought hundreds of battles. You should be careful and don't let him get too close to you. Yan Liwen smiled and nodded, don't be afraid, let's see what he wants to say first. The envoy with a seal came in front of Yan Liwen, jumped off the horse more than 20 meters away, and walked over slowly. I am Bogte, the envoy of the Khan. The Khan ordered me to invite you to the big tent for a meeting. I can allow you to take the new position of the right school king and be in charge of a grassland. While speaking, this envoy with a seal was no longer as arrogant as the previous envoy, but was much more polite. Yan Liwen was surprised. He looked at Hassan and said, I killed his people, and he asked me to take his place. You know, the right school king just died in his hands. The Khan did not even talk about revenge, but wanted to recruit him. Hassan explained, this kind of thing happens from time to time. On this grassland, everyone only respects strength. A large tribe on the grassland is not particularly united. It may be composed of 50 or 60 small tribes, so it seems nothing to change someone to take over the position. But Yan Liwen felt that it was not right. Now that the Khan was about to go south to hunt for grass and valleys, It was the time to establish his authority. If he didn't kill himself, how could he convince the people? So many small tribes were watching and waiting. At other times, the other party might be able to recruit him, but not now. Even a young man like Yan Liwen understood this truth. The other party was the Khan who commanded dozens of tribes. How could he not understand it? At this time, the envoy with the imperial seal said, "If you don't believe it, I have a handwritten edict from the Khan here. You can take a look." As he said that, the other party stepped forward and took out a sheepskin from his arms. But before he could get close, Hassan shouted, "Master, be careful." Then he was about to push Yan Liwen away. However, Hassan did not push Yan Liwen at all, but was pushed away by Yan Liwen. Hassan turned back in panic and saw that Yan Liwen's blood vessels were shining with silver light, just like Yan Liwen's appearance when he first arrived at the tribe in the snowstorm, mysterious and unusual. The moment the messenger with the commissary came in front of Yan Liwen, he drew his sword from his waist, and the white knife light rushed towards Yan Liwen like water. He came with a mission, to kill the boy in front of him, and he himself would be the new right school king. In the description of the messenger who was pecked blind before, Yan Liwen should be an extraordinary person, but the boy's ability should be to control wild animals, such as eagles and wolves. However, no extraordinary person has no shortcomings. Since the ability is to control wild animals, the body should be very weak. As long as the warriors in the tribe can get close to him and make him unable to control the wild animals, this big trouble can be solved. The Khan has indeed listed Yan Liwen as a major threat. A man who can control thousands of wolves can easily deal a huge blow to his army if a fight breaks out. Moreover, the herdsmen are ignorant. Seeing such a strange thing, their mentality may collapse before the fight even starts. So he must kill Yan Liwen. On the one hand, it is to establish his authority to consolidate his rule, and on the other hand, it is to nip the threat in the bud. For this reason, he even promised to give him the throne of the right school king. However, when this warrior named Borgte came to Yan Liwen, he looked at the mysterious silver lines on the opposite face, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. The knife light splashed down on Yan Liwen's head, and the nervous Borgte was delighted. He didn't expect that this young man would not even dodge. You know, if this knife goes down, even a god like the Khan can't stop it, right? With a clang, the steel knife chopped down, but there was a sound of metal clashing. Yan Liwen in front of Borgte had been wearing a steel armor at some point. The steel knife could only leave a white mark on the head of the armor. Yan Liwen did have a shortcoming. He did not have a strong physique like other extraordinary people. If he was close to the enemy, he would easily die. But Ren Xiaosu had already made up for this shortcoming for him. At the beginning, Ren Xiaosu had accumulated dozens of nano-robots from nano-warriors, and gave them all to Yan Liwen when they parted, just because he was worried that something might happen to him. These number of nano-robots were enough for Yan Liwen to complete the outer armor. On this grassland without heavy weapons, not to mention Yan Liwen's own ability, this outer armor alone was enough for him to walk sideways. This was a gift from Ren Xiaosu. Yan Liwen grabbed Borgte's long knife with his arm covered with armor, and then broke it into two pieces. Borgte was already a little overwhelmed when he looked at the steel beast in front of him. How should he deal with this beast that he couldn't even chop with a knife? The knife is gone, should I bite with my teeth? But before Borgte could figure out what to do, he saw a group of herdsmen kneeling behind the young Yan Liwen. The herdsmen in these tribes bowed to Yan Liwen as if they were worshipping a god. In their eyes, this was undoubtedly another miracle from the gods. Yan Liwen smiled at Borgte and said, "I understand what your Khan is thinking. It's just right to use your heads to build a throne for me." He wanted the entire grassland, so he had to let the entire grassland know of his arrival first. In the future, he will kill many more people until this grassland belongs to him. How this era treats him is how he will treat this era. Sister Xiao watched silently from the side, and she suddenly felt fortunate that she was still with Yan Liwen. Chapter 625 Wake Up. 61 has regained its vitality. The refugees quickly took up their respective jobs in the barrier, and the entire barrier was running in an orderly manner. Because of Wang's artificial intelligence control, some refugees with ulterior motives were forced to settle down. Those who dared to make trouble in the barrier were basically imprisoned, and many people were directly sentenced to death. However, the atmosphere in the barrier was slightly depressing. Many refugees were afraid that they would do something wrong and be imprisoned. Regarding the operation of the entire barrier number 61, Wang had someone specifically responsible for recording and compiling detailed information for reporting. The officials under the Wang Consortium were particularly serious about this matter, because this was the information that the big boss Wang Shengzi wanted, and it was said that it was used to improve and adjust artificial intelligence. Outside the barrier, the houses that Ren Xiaosu had bought at a low price before were all sold at high prices thanks to Wang's. Of course, the price was not that high. After all, Ren Xiaosu also had to consider the purchasing power of the refugees. After all, there were not many refugees who could save money with great difficulty. But the price Ren Xiaosu paid for the house was too low. This matter made Lao Wang feel a little annoyed. He always felt that Ren Xiaosu made money easily, while he had to travel all over the country and still didn't make as much as Ren Xiaosu. At this moment, the market town was already crowded with people. After a month, the prosperity of the market town was even better than before. You know, before the incident at barrier number 61, there were only more than 40,000 people in the market town, but after the incident at barrier number 61, more than 80,000 people gathered in the market town now. When Ren Xiaosu was playing cards in the tavern, he looked at the people coming and going outside the window and sighed. Wang's move really surprised everyone. This is just the people in the market town number 61. I think there are more people who were taken away by military trucks. Now Zhou and Kong should be very worried. The shutdown of the factory is a small matter. If the grain production decreases next year, many people may starve. Originally, Zhou and Kong knew that barrier number 61 had an accident. They were sympathetic on the surface and willing to support the reconstruction, but in fact, they might be gloating behind the scenes. But now they are dumbfounded. After a storm, Wang directly passed the disaster to them. It must be said that this time Ren Xiaosu really looked up to Wang Shengzi a lot. Wang Yuqi at the side asked curiously, "But brother Xiaosu, why does the Wang family need so many refugees?" "As long as there are people, there is productivity," Wang Fuge explained on the side. "The Wang family is located in the plains, and they still have a lot of fertile land in the wilderness that has not been cultivated. In the past, they suffered from insufficient manpower, and it was not easy to break down the class barriers and drive out the people to farm. Now it's good, they have plenty of people to work." Qin Sheng looked at them and said, "Don't delay playing cards while talking." "Oh, a pair of 4, Ren Xiaosu threw out 2 cards. "A pair of 5, Wang Fuge also played his cards. "By the way, Xiaosu, hasn't the girl named Zhou in your room woken up yet?" "No," Ren Xiaosu frowned and said, "I don't know what's going on. This woman slept for a month and didn't wake up. I thought her ability is plant-based, and she absorbed too much energy from the plants this time. She won't become a vegetable all of a sudden." Returning home at night, Ren Xiaosu looked at Zhou Yingsu quietly. This woman had slept for a month, and her face was still rosy without eating or drinking. He muttered, "It looks like you don't have to eat in the future. It's just right, I can save a meal." While speaking, Ren Xiaosu kept staring at Zhou Yingsu's fingers. The book said that when a vegetative person wants to wake up, he will move his fingers first. However, when Ren Xiaosu was staring at Zhou Yingsu's fingers, a cold voice came, "Who are you?" Ren Xiaosu suddenly looked up at Zhou Yingsu, only to see that the other party had opened her eyes. Her eyes were deep and cold, as if she had never known Ren Xiaosu. The room was quiet. Ren Xiaosu had long been accustomed to Zhou Yingsu lying quietly here as a vegetable. He was expecting her to wake up, but when she really woke up, he was still surprised. The candlelight in the room seemed to be fixed by the strong air pressure and no longer swayed. Zhou Yingsu lay on the bed and looked at Ren Xiaosu coldly. The two sides suddenly fell into a stalemate. The next moment, Ren Xiaosu muttered, "Your brain is not really burned out, is it? But you didn't have much brains to begin with." As soon as this was said, Zhou Yingsu immediately became angry. "Master, is this how you see me? You are brainless and boring. Can't you just cooperate with me in acting? Get up quickly when you wake up," Ren Xiaosu said unhappily. "You have occupied my bed for a month. Do you know how I have been spending this month? Sleeping on the floor. Asking the master to sleep on the floor. Is this what a maid does? Is this what a human does?" Zhou Yingsu glanced at the bed by the window, and her mood suddenly softened. She got up carefully and asked, "Master, you have been guarding me for a month. What else?" Ren Xiaosu said unhappily, "You have slept well this month, but I have suffered a lot. It's winter and the floor is so cold. Zhou Yingsu smiled apologetically. Master, please sit down quickly. I'll give you a leg massage. Forget about the leg massage for now. Ren Xiaosu looked at Zhou Yingsu carefully. Do you know what you have been through? The memory stated the last moment. I injected my own energy into the roots of the ivy. Originally, I thought I could control it, but my energy seemed to have pierced a hole in it. The chaotic energy all flowed back into my body, and then I fainted. I floated unconsciously in the darkness for a long time, and saw many bizarre bubbles, and in the bubbles were some people's lives. Zhou Yingsu said, I suspect those are the memories left by those who died in the disaster, and they were swallowed up by the ivy. Ren Xiaosu pondered for a moment. Then can you see their bank account number and password? Zhou Yingsu was stunned, and then almost cried. She said in a crying voice, what should I do, Master? I forgot to look at it. Is it too late to look now? Ren Xiaosu asked. It's too late, Zhou Yingsu regretted. They all disappeared when I woke up. Ren Xiaosu sighed. You seem to be quite money grubber usually. Why do you fail at this critical moment? That's not right, sir, Zhou Yingsu reacted. I've been in a coma for a month. Why are you immediately concerned about money? Shouldn't you show some concern for me? Ahem. Ren Xiaosu changed the subject. By the way, has your ability changed? In fact, this is what Ren Xiaosu wanted to know most. After all, Zhou Yingsu absorbed the power of hundreds of thousands of people in a barrier. Even if it was second-hand energy absorbed through ivy, it was still amazing enough. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.